Eccoci qua, con episodio 5, End of the Golden Witch. Good morning, please enjoy the new game, with its new game master. I say that, but the game has already reached its climax. The culprit has been cornered and merely awaits checkmate. I am sure there will be something you can spot from this clearer perspective. The difficulty is fairly easy. What could possibly fool you now? Pronti? Manco a Capodanno. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Avevamo visto l'inizio, la prima linea, e poi ci siamo fermati. Mirage Coordinator. You idiot! Isn't it obvious? It'll be fun to kill her and see the pain look on your face. Why else? Look, don't turn your eyes away. Look at it.
ほらほらほらほら魔法だよ家具だよそなたがどんなにわらわや魔法の存在を否定しようともほらほらほらほらほらほら
Look, don't turn your eyes away. Look at it. Look. It's magic, it's furniture. No matter how much you try to deny me and magic, just look, and look. Sorry, Butler. It was pretty interesting. Still, I was just trying to do what Master told me, but it really did work very well. I hear after acting soon and exploring the depths of cruelty, if you act properly incompetent and dare, you can get a massive rise on that goodwill meter thing, right? That lonely tone was the sound of the desolate wind blowing by. The color of the glittering flower petals of the rose bushes was that of gold. The group of gold butterflies which had once danced through this gold rose garden, like fluttering rose petals, could no longer be seen anywhere. The master of the golden land is the witch Beatrice, golden witch Beatrice. She could be called inhumane and cruel, arrogant and outrageous, and also naive and simple. That laugh of hers, which lost its grace more and more the longer it continued, could no longer be heard. The golden witch Beatrice sat like a doll, resting in a deck chair adorned as beautifully as the golden rose garden. She wasn't relaxing there. Empty-eyed, never responding to any questions, and yet still not permitted to sleep, Beatrice was sitting there as she was just a doll. Her hair was down and Virgilia was carefully fixing it with a comb. If Beatrice had been complaining about this and that regarding her hairstyle, Then it would have been clear that she was the usual Beato. However, she gave no responses and showed no reactions. So instead, it only looked like Virgilia was combing the golden hair of a large doll. Alongside them, there was a table. On it was a chessboard, along with a mix of black and white pieces in an all-out battle. However, something about this setup looked different from normal chess. It might have been a game similar to chess, but not identical. On the other side, sitting back in his chair as he contemplated his next move, was a young man. No, perhaps he wasn't thinking of his next move. Every once in a while, he would change the positions of the pieces, reconsidering the situation each time he changed it. Maybe he was reconstructing previous games, trying to discover the thought process behind those moves. In the past, Kinzo, the Ushiromiya family, had once likened studying chess games to taking a journey through the thoughts of the old masters. Ushiromiya Butler was on a journey in search of the Golden Witch's thought process, which had led her to create these arrangements and make these moves. Butler took a black piece which he had only just moved forward and returned it to its original place, sighing deeply. Butler's pieces were white. However, on that chessboard, the side facing Butler was black's territory. He was stepping through the game from Beato's perspective. The more I do this, the less I understand your moves. Even Butler didn't expect that Beato would respond to that statement. No, he was still holding on to the hope that there might be a chance for her responding, and had only made it sound as though he was talking to himself. Beato's eyes reflected nothing, and her mouth told nothing. After begging him to kill her, the Golden Witch had become a corpse which had given up on living. She wasn't sleeping. She was forbidden to step down from this game, and therefore sleep was not permitted. So she must have heard. However, his words probably hadn't reached her heart. The Golden Witch would no longer sneer at Butler's moves, nor would she praise them or belittle them. Beatrice was no longer anything more than a living doll. Even so, she would glance at him every once in a while. It would be an empty glance, but a glance nonetheless. Sometimes she would seem to make some sort of gesture or even move her lips. However, her movements were never able to communicate anything to Butler. What led you to make this move in this situation? I don't get it at all. I don't understand your moves. Beato? Butler-kun is talking to you. Hey, say something. Snicker or gawaf if you want. I don't even care if you use that shrill laugh of yours. It seemed unbelievable that shrill laugh of Beato's would never be heard again. However, even she couldn't answer. His voice was surely reaching her. Butler was talking to her because he believed this, so he said the same thing one more time. What led you to make this move in this situation? I don't get it at all. I don't understand your moves. So, her thoughts don't make any sense to you? Virgilia answered in her disciple's stead. Up to this point, she had done her best to avoid speaking for Beato. After all, there was a chance that Beato would respond in some way, and Virgilia didn't want to be the one to take the opportunity away from her. Which meant that Butler was being forced to bear with this silence, until Beato herself answered. Virgilia could no longer bear to watch him like this. And Butler too wanted to have a conversation with Virgilia, with faith that their words would reach Beato's heart. Yeah, I don't have a clue. The more I try standing in Beato's shoes and moving the pieces like this, the less I understand. The successful execution of a serial murder following an epitaph. He was stepping through the games from the witch's side with that as the victory condition. But he just couldn't make it fit with Beato's moves. He could see several incomprehensible moves in the records of their past games that clearly conflicted with that victory condition. I don't get it at all. This journey through her thinking process is just too rugged. Even so, you won't give up, will you? Yeah, I promised. Kill me. Let me die. I promise to let her die peacefully. And I'm the only one who can do that. Beato's right ankle was bound with a heavy, cold steel shackle. It wasn't tied to anything, so it didn't restrict her movement. However, it symbolized restriction. It was a visualization of the restriction that prevented her from leaving the game without either victory or loss. And that shackle was probably hurting her. The mercilessly cold steel shackle was tormenting her over and over inside her waking dream. So there was never any relief in her empty expression. Her eyelids would sometimes tremble like she was having a bad dream, and every once in a while she would let out a pained gasp. Unless I win, Beato will never be released from the curse that prevents her from resting in peace. Are you in a hurry? It seems that the fifth game has already started. I'm not interested. Why should I take part in any game without Beato as an opponent? If that's the only alternative, then stepping through past games on a journey in search of Beato's thought process is a much better use of my time. I'll be the next game master. Any objections? You have none, right? I have tons. Beato had abandoned the fight and lost consciousness. Isn't this loss by default and game over for her? I admit a lot happened to Beato, and it feels a teensy bit like she's been knocked out right now. But that doesn't mean she's lost the will to fight. That's why I'm acting as her assistant. Get it? Beato was lying down on a deck chair, almost as though she was sleeping. However, she wasn't sleeping, and she wasn't awake either. She was nothing more than a living doll who had given up on victory, asked Butler to perform her last rites, and entrusted everything to him. Of course, no fifth game would ever be prepared if everyone just sat around. So Lambda Delta had succeeded Beato as the game master and proclaimed that she would prepare the next game. Quit messing around. This game is between me and Beato. I don't know who you two are, but I'm not gonna just let you carry on without us. No one asked your opinion. So, Vern, do you accept or not?
いいわ。
Sure.
あんたが引き継ぎな
Go
さい。
and succeed their position.
なんだと
What the
ふざけ
hell?
るな
How dare you say
お前
that?
ら何者か知らねえが
I don't know who you two are, but I'm not gonna let you ignore Beato and me and just carry on by yourselves.
落ち着きなさいよ。
Calm
確
down.
かにプレイヤーが
Of
変われば
course, a
指し手
different
も
player
変わ
will
る。
choose different moves.
あんたにとっては戸
You
惑う
might
こ
have
と
a
も多
lot
いかもしれないけ
a
ど。
lot of reason to feel uneasy about the
それでも
idea,
大きなヒン
but
トに
even
なり
so,
得る
it
でしょ。
could give you some big hints, right?
知らねえよ
Who
勝
cares?
手なこと言って仕
And
切っ
who
てんじゃね
put
え
you in charge?
ベアとのゲームを4つも繰り返
Beato's
して。
game has repeated
何もわから
4
ないんでしょ。
times, and still you don't understand anything, right?
なら、
In
プレ
that
イヤー
case,
が
I
変わ
think
るの
that
は
changing the
大きなヒ
player
ント
might
にな
lead
ると思う
to
けど。
some huge hints.
大きなお世話だ
That's none of your
これ
business.
はベアトが用
This
意
is
し
our
俺を
game.
対戦相手に指
Beato
定した
prepared it, and
俺
she
たちのゲームだ
designed me to be her opponent in it.
どこから湧いてきたのかもしれないお前らに
I
かき
don't
回される
know
のは
what
ごめん
hole
な
you two crept out of, but I don't want you screwing things up.
なら、ベアトを
In
起
that
こして
case, wake
次の準備をさ
Beato
せ
up
て。
and make her get the next game
でき
ready.
る？
Can you?
ベアトはしばら
Beato
く
won't
起き
be
ね
getting up for a while.
それに新しいゲーム
But
なんて
there's
必要
no
ね
need for a new game.
あいつがこれまでに
Just the 4 games she's already laid out are more than enough.
仮に第5のゲームがあるとしても
Even if there is to be a 5th game, it just needs to be something that Beato lays out as I challenge.
お前らには
You
何の
two
関
have
係もない
absolutely nothing to do with this. Butler couldn't hide his irritation at the 2 witches called Lambda Delta and Ben Castle, who had shown up after the game started and who had started to try and continue it on their own. It looked like these witches were of an even higher rank than Beato. So high, in fact, that even Beato's master, Virgilia, couldn't come close. Butler had feelings that he had seen these two several times before. However, this was the first time he had learned their names and spoken to them directly.
ベアトを起こせず。
You can't get the next game ready without waking Beato. That's why I'm going to prepare it instead.
私たちはね、
Listen, Butler.
いつ正気を取り
We
戻
aren't
すか
so
もわからない
patient that we are willing to wait for however long we have to for Beato to regain consciousness.
ベルン。
Right, Ben?
退屈はごめんな。
I don't like
イライ
boredom.
ラするほど。
It really ticks me off.
お前が退屈がろうが
We really
俺た
don't
ちは知っ
care
たこ
whether
とじゃ
you
ね
get bored or not.
まあまあ。
Oh, come on
この
now.
パーフェクトなラム
Leave
ダデルタ
everything
様
to
に任せなさい。
perfect Lambda Delta Sama, okay?
私がゲームマスターを
I'll
引き継ぐ。
take over as the game master.
大丈夫よ。
Don't
あん
worry.
まり絶対
I
完璧
won't
にはプレ
play
イし
too
ないわよ。
much certain
ベア
perfection.
トっぽく。わけの
I'll
わか
act
んないフェイク
all
をしっかり
Beato-like and
ボーナスヒント
prepare
をい
plenty
っ
of
ぱい用意
clues,
してあげる。
bonus hints, and fakes that makes no
ベアトの
sense.
世界をより理解
I'll
す
make
る
it
ため
into
の
one
大き
big
なヒントに
hint
して
to
あげ
help
る
you
わよ。
understand Beato's world even more, okay? Letting my voiceless emotions explode, I slammed the table hard. The 2 witches barely flinched. One grinned. The other looked indifferent, as though nothing had happened. The 2 of them just stared at me silently, as though they were reproaching me.
何？
What's this? Not
あんたは
satisfied?
私によ
Are
る
you
第
saying
5の
you'll
ゲー
step
ムを降り
down
る
from
の？
my fifth
そ
game?
れって不
Isn't
先輩。
that lost by default?
バトラーは降りないわよ。
Butler won't step
もちろん
down.
第5
Of
の
course
ゲー
he'll
ムにも参加する
participate in this 5th game.
勝手に決めるんじゃね
Don't
え
just decide that
お前らに
yourself.
俺は付き合
I'm
わない
not gonna play along with you
知
two.
ったことじゃな
I
い
don't give a shit.
ならやっぱり不先輩ってこと
Then
よ
it
ね。
really is lost by default,
このゲーム
right?
は魔女側
The
の
which
勝ち。
side wins in this game? The humans submit, and we wrap things up then?
降りるなら
If you step down, then you lose by default and the game ends. Are you okay with
た
that?
った一人残され
If
た
you
妹
want to make
も
if you want to make certain that your
無
lonely
限の世
sister
界のすべてで
will
たど
always
る。
meet with miserable
不幸な境遇を確定
circumstances
させた
in an
いの。
endless number
そ
of
れも選
worlds.
択よ。
That option is indeed open to you. When Ben Castle mentioned ENG, Butler's expression changed instantly.
てめえ
How dare
エンジの
you
ことを
talk about ENG so
口に
casually?
するんじゃね
It's because you have me, the Witch of Miracles, Ben Castle, as your ally, that there exists the possibility of a miracle in which Angel's family might come home to her. Well, if you want to throw that chance away yourself, guaranteeing that Angel's endless futures will always end in sorrow, then that might be pretty interesting for me too. I vaguely understood what she was saying. Until I win Beato's game, I remain trapped in this bizarre world. And if I abandon victory, then most certainly my parents and I will never return to Enge. For Enge's sake, even though I know that the witches are toying with me, I must keep on fighting. Damn. What's wrong? You look unsatisfied. Did you already forget the anger you felt when your sister was turned into mincemeat? That spectacle where she was torn to bits, ripped to pieces by countless red-hot pliers. Do you need to look at it directly this time? Bercastle faced the palm of her right hand upwards. As she did, a pale light gathered there, and some kind of blue glowing crystal appeared there. A scene was reflected on its sharp surface, but it wasn't the scene that surrounded them now. If you looked deep in that crystal, that fragment, then you would probably learn what was reflected out on there. Reflected on there. If you stared at it, then you would surely witness that scene where Enge finally reached her beloved brother after devoting 12 years of her life to that goal, only to have her entire body torn to bits while she was still alive. Damn you! Without thinking, he grabbed at her collar, but as soon as he touched whatever made up her form, it disappeared like foam on the waves. And then, as naturally as though she had been there from the beginning, Ben Castle was leaning against a distant wall. If you step down from the game, this will become not just a fragment, but a definite reality. I won't be the one to weave that future. You'll do it yourself. So you decide, alright? Figure out what you want to do with your beloved little sister's future. Butler's fists shook in anger, but even if he swung them now, he wouldn't be able to hit Berncastle. He, like a cat or a phantom, this witch wouldn't even let someone pet her if she didn't wish for it. Besides, she's telling the truth. For Angel's sake, I can't step down from this fight, even if these unpleasant witches hijack the game board. That's just like you, Ben. Even the way you frighten people into doing what you want is heartless. That's how it is, Butler. You aren't allowed to step down from the game board. You and Beato are both nothing more than pieces on the game board who exist to distract us from our boredom. Even your incomprehensible anger and irritation makes from a wonderful treat to sate our boredom. Well, this level of anger only makes for a cheap snack. Like those curry-flavored potato wafers that sell at 30 yen for a pair. You damn witches. Fight for Angel's sake. Okay. And for Beato's too, right? In a way that was admonishing or perhaps babying, Berncastle smiled, tormenting Butler in a very similar way to how something too sweet sometimes gives you a headache. The host of this tea party, Beato, was absent now, and the guest witches were already making themselves at home. What do you do, Ushiramia Butler? Surrender to fate? Just step down. You had enough of being toyed with as a witch's piece, right? Oh, it's tough being one of Ben's pieces. You'll be a throwaway, just like Ange. I'm not giving you the option of stepping down. Keep fighting for the sake of your little sister's future. I am on your side. Until you win, I'll support you so that you can reach that future. For all eternity. Until I get bored. Butler couldn't allow himself to fall to their provocations and cajolery. Mai sentito sta parola? These witches knew that he got mad easily and they were trying to take advantage of that. Butler withstood it all and finally relaxed his clenched fists. If you want to start this fifth game of yours, then just do it. Do whatever you want. I will. Hey, where are you going? Even though Butler had acknowledged this fifth game, he turned his back on them, which surprised Lambda Delta a bit. If you're going to be Beato's substitute, then I'm sure that Ben Castle Witch over there can be mine if she wants. Not a bad idea. Otherwise, you'll turn into a loss by default. What the heck? Are you just gonna ignore this episode 5 that I put so much effort into making? Rude, rude. Butler says he's going to take a break for a while. Until he comes back, I'll be the substitute player. How's that sound, Butler? You do that. What's wrong, Lambda? If your opponent is me and not that fool Butler, you won't play? Of course I will. I'm glad to get to play with you, Ben. Come on, let's play, let's play. Let's play together. Let's play together in Lambda Delta Sama's super hyper and cute episode 5. This is a world that Beato created, remember? You aren't going to ruin the atmosphere of the story, are you? Don't worry about that. I'm really good at reading between the lines for that sort of stuff. I made sure to use Beato-ish atmosphere and I made it into an even more interesting story. Butler, make sure you come back as soon as your break's over, okay? You'd be ashamed to miss this. I prepared plenty of bonus hints that get you closer to Beato's secret. Is what it looked like, but I'll actually fit in with. Is what it looked like, but I'll actually fill it with misdirection and make things more and more confusing. Wait, hey, Butler! Aren't you listening when a witch is talking? Without answering, Butler disappeared into the darkness. After shrugging and cackling, the witches immediately started playing with the game board they had stolen from Beato. Cosa pensate per il momento? Vi vedo, siete molto presi, che non vedo che nessuno scrive, penso che siete molto presi dalla storia. Spero. Can those witches really understand Beato's game? Since they're using the same game board, they cannot do anything that this child cannot do. However, they can do things that she wouldn't do.
やらないこととは
What do you mean, things she wouldn't do?
チェスの道具は
The materials of chess exist to play chess
そ
with.
れを使って
You
トランプを
cannot
する
use
こと
them
が
to
で
play
きる。
cards.
しかしチェスの
However,
駒を
as throwing the
相
chess
手に投げつ
pieces
けてぶつけたり
However,
チェ
as
ス
for
盤に
throwing
落
the
書
chess
き
pieces at your opponent or scribbling on the
そういう
board,
行為をすること
doing
も
such thing
不
is
可能で
not
はありません。
impossible.
しかしそれは
However, that would be
チェスに対す
blasphemy
る
against the
冒涜
game
だ
of
から
chess.
誰も
So people don't do that. That definitely wouldn't be chess anymore. It looked like Beato's eye clouded very slightly with sadness.
ふざけやがってこれは俺とベア
This
トのゲー
game
ム
is between me and Beato.
他の誰にも
I won't let anyone else profane it. At that time, gold butterflies gathered and Ronove appeared, holding a tea set with black tea.
紅茶のおかわりはいかが
Would
で
you
すか
like some... Would you like some more tea?
もらえるか
If you wouldn't mind.
かしこまりました
Certainly.
いかがですか
So,
お嬢様の思考を
How,
探る
how has this journey of yours in search of Milady's thoughts been?
さっぱりだが
I'm as clueless as ever, but I am enjoying it.
しかしよろしい
On
の
a
ですか
different topic, are you certain
こ
about
ちらで
this?
くつろがれて
Relaxing here, I mean.
あの魔女どもが
Are you
勝手に
talking
全て
about the
のゲーム
game those witches are playing all by themselves?
ええ
Yes.
先ほど
Just
紅茶を
now,
お
when
届け
I
に伺
went
った
to
時
serve
には
them some tea,
もう
the
第一の
murders
晩
of
の
the
殺
first
人が起こ
twilight
り
had already taken place.
もうじきその次の殺人も起こりそうな気配
And
で
it
す
seems as though the next murder would occur shortly. When Beato and I were playing, the game would be paused whenever someone left their seats. However, those witches wouldn't pause that game just because I wasn't around.
ロノウェは
Ronove, did you see their
一
game?
部ではございますが
Just a part of it.
どうだった
How was it? Ronove lifted the pot high with an elegant gesture as he poured the black tea. After he was done, he finally spoke, expressing his thoughts in a very few words.
愛がありません
It
な
did not have love.
愛ってな
What
ん
do you mean, love?
これは失礼
My apologies.
女性風に
That
申
is
し上
how
げ
it
る
would
と
be
です
put if a woman were to say it.
男性風に申し上げる
As a
ならば
man,
義理が通ると
perhaps
申し
one
ましょう
could say it was dishonorable. I understood what those words meant. When I met Virgilia's eyes, she shook her head slightly and stared at the floor.
上辺は
At a glance, I believe it resembles Milady's games
し
greatly.
かし
However, the foundation is very different.
それはベアトの
Does
ゲ
it
ーム
go
のルール
against the
に
rules
反
of
することなのか
Beato's game?
いいえ
No,
反しません
it does not.
ラムダデルタ様は
Lambda Delta Sam
お嬢様のゲ
understand
ー
the
ムのル
rules
ー
of
ルを
Milady's game
実に
very
よく
well
理解な
indeed.
されておりますしかし
However, however, Butler stood up. There was no need to make Ronove say
バ
anymore.
トラク
But
ロノウェすまない
sorry,
せっかく
Ronove.
入れてもらったけ
I
ど
know you went to all that trouble of pouring this for me, but the tea isn't what I need.
やはり
You
参り
will
ます
go
か
after all?
ああ
Yeah.
俺たちのゲームに
We don't need any outsiders in our game. Those guys weren't even here in the beginning. Because I've been loafing about, crazier and crazier witches have been introduced. And now they have hijacked this game between me and Beato.
取り返さねえとな
I've got to take it back.
ベアトのゲーム版は
I'm supposed to be the one taking care of Beato's game board now.
その俺が
That means
ここ
I
でぼん
shouldn't
やり
just
するわ
sit
けには
around
いかない
here.
ありがと
Thank
うそ
you.
の言葉を
I wanted to let this child hear those words.
きっと聞こえています
I'm sure she hears
お
them.
嬢様は
Milady is simply unable to answer. Beato lays there silently, like a living doll with dull eyes. The game board that she had created herself has been hijacked by incomprehensible people and she was being turned into a mess. Beato had called on to me to be her opponent. Then this game must be something she created for me. I've got to take it back. You just wait here.
俺が取り返してく
I'm
れ
going to take it back. Of course, Beato didn't respond in any way. That's right. If she can't respond, then I have to protect her in her place.
行ってくるぜ
I'll be right back.
ロ
Virgilia,
ノエ
Ronove.
黄金の眠り姫の
I'm
面倒を
counting
頼
on
む
you
ぜ
two to look after this golden sleeping princess. Yes, leave it to us.
いってらっしゃい。
See you later, Butler Kun.
そして
And please,
この子のいないゲーム
try to discover some part of this child in their game without
も
her.
しそれを見つけることができたら
If you
たと
can,
えこの子が不在であ
Then
って
it will mean that you have fought with her even in her absence.
そうだな
Yes.
全然ダメだ
This is no goddamn good
俺
at
は
all.
何をやって
What am I doing? Let's go and let's take it back.
魔女ども待たせたな
Sorry to have kept you waiting, witches.
俺の休憩は終わり
My
だぞ
break is over. When he faced the jet black heavens and yelled this, the whole world shattered as though it was made out of thin glass. Then, as though it had been that way since the beginning, it transformed into that smoking room where Butler had fought Beato so many times, in which the two witches had now hijacked.
何あんた
What do you think you're doing?
今頃戻ってきた
You're
の
only coming back
超
now?
遅すぎ
It's way too
もう
late.
ゲームは2日目ど
Not
ころか
only has the game
大
reached
詰
the
めも大
second
詰めよ
day, it's already at the finale.
バトルがいつまで
You
も
never
来ない
showed
から
up, so I just
私が
advanced
勝手に
things
進め
on
ちゃ
my
ったの
own. Yeah, like you ever even waited for me in the first
ベル
place.
はあんたよりずっと頭
Ben
が
was
良くて
Ben
痛
was
快だったもんね
Ben was way sharper and more thrilling than you were, right?
うるせえ
Shut up.
プレイヤーは俺だ
I'm the player here.
代役の魔女どもは
You
引っ込んで
substitute witches can just take a step back now.
別に今から
Well,
参
I
加
don't
して
really
も構わな
mind
い
if you join in starting
もう
now.
出番ないわ
But there's probably no need for you anymore.
確かに
Seriously, after all, we're already at the
これで
climax.
多分
After this, Ben will probably corner me and win.
なんだと
What the hell?
いいんじゃない
Why not though?
最後の詰めくらい
Let him watch the final moves.
そうね
Yeah.
おいでなさい
Come on,
後ろ
Shirami
にはバトル
Butler.
もうほとんどおしまい
It's
だけど
almost completely over, but here's a cute and elegant game I made.
エピソード5
Episode 5.
End of the Golden Witch
Episode 5. Ends of the Golden Witch. Ok, che è successo qua? Ok, ok. First Twilight, penso. Sono morti Jessica, Hideyoshi, George, Maria, Rosa e Ronove. Allora aspetta. Jessica, corpse discovered in the cousin rooms on the upper floor of the guest house. The direct cause of death is unknown, but her neck was sliced open by a sharp blade. The wound was deep enough that anyone could easily confirm her death with absolute certainty. Ok. Sono tutti quanti morti in un stesso posto? No. Ma è sempre stato Ronowe Genji. Aspetta, allora. Upper floor of the guest house. Upper floor of the guest house. Upper floor of the guest house. First floor of the guest house. Cope discovered on the first floor of the guest house. He had been pierced through the back with a demon stake. Its tip reached as far as his lungs. Because he was lying face down on the bed, suicide must be ruled out. The cousin room on the upper... Ok, cos'è la stessa? La stessa. Ronowe Genji. No, questo è uguale. Ok, quindi l'unico è Hideyoshi, che è un po' strano. Vabbè, allora un attimo. Mi ero completamente dimenticato che iniziavo così. Quindi abbiamo Jessica, un attimo. Allora, no, Genji. Ok, Genji. Maria. Sì, sì. Maria. George. Hideyoshi. Rosa, mi sono dimenticato. Rosa e Jessica, manca. Jessica. Ok, loro 6 sono morti. Witch's Side, c'è qualcosa di nuovo? No, sembra lo stesso. C'è scritto magari... c'è Butler qui. The man designated by Beato as her opponent during the first 4 games, disgusted at how Lambda Delta took over as a game master for the 5th game, is not taking part in it as a player. Okay, serving as the 5th game master in place of Beato, who stepped down from the position in the 4th game. Because of that, the story of the 5th game, while appearing very similar to previous games, is expected to turn out quite differently. Just like Berncastle, she has no love for boredom, and might be friend or foe to Beato or Ben, depending on the situation. The Witch of Miracles, also known as blah blah blah, participating in the 5th game as the player opposing Beato. However, from the very beginning, her aim has not been to deny the witch's illusion. Her only goal is to destroy Beato and her world as a way to stave off her boredom. Though she does deny the witch illusion, she is no ally of Butler's. Ok, andiamo. The second day, October 5th, 1986. Che strano arrivare al gioco già iniziato. Beh, Eva, giustamente. Right now, no humans exist on this island except for those in this parlor. And with one exception, it has been shown that none of them have committed murder. And the culprit is among these people.
Oi, oi, となると決定的じゃないか。
It's conclusive, isn't it?
魔女が犯人で
Unless the culprit is a witch who committed murder with magic, that is.
あんたなの
It was you.
あんたがジョージ
You
を
killed
主
George.
人を殺した
Killed my
の
husband.
どうしてよ
Why?
どうして
私は殺して
I
いません
didn't kill anyone.
私は
I didn't do it. In a panic and with a voice that really couldn't be called flowing, in a matter that was, to put it coldly, unsightly, Aunt Natsui denied the suspicion placed upon her. However, there was no longer any way around it. The girl stood up, brushed back her long hair, pointed at Aunt Natsui, and said it one more time.
あなたが犯人です
You are the culprit,
後宮夏日さん
Ushiramiya Natsui-san. Incredibile, possiamo vedere un opening assieme. Chi sarà questa tipa? Da dove è uscita questa? Ed è nella game board, non è fuori. Era importante. It's Natsui! Please open up! Natsui yelled as she knocked loudly and repeatedly. Shortly after, there was a heavy clunking sound, and the sound of the door to Kinzo's study unlocking could be heard. As the door opened, a heavily sweet venomous odor flowed out. Oh, grazie mille del ride, GBJ. Benvenuti. Natsui was already ashamed of how she automatically grimaced at that, even though she thought it rude to the family head. Kraus was waiting for her inside the study. Natsui flew into his arms. His father... Is he...
落ち着きたまえ
Calm yourself.
今南條先生の見
Nando
て
is examining him now. With an uncertain gait, Natsui went towards the center of the study, supported by Kraus. There, a dignified bed fitting for the head of the Ushiromiya family could be seen, along with Nanjo, Genji, and Kumasawa. Dr. Nanjo, his father. After sighing deeply, Nanjo left the side of the bed. On the bed, Kinzo could be seen lying down, sleeping.
大往生だ
He died peacefully.
金蔵さんも心
I
残り
don't
はな
think
かった
Kinzo-san had any regrets. Sobbing, Natsui put her head against the chest of the man who had fallen into a sleep from which he would never awaken.
奥様
Madame,
どうかしっかり
please stay strong.
お父様お父様こんな突然な
This is just too sudden. Mi fa ridere perché, oh no, aveva solo 90 anni. Preso nel fiore degli anni. Natsui couldn't stop her tears over the death of Kinzo, whom she had loved like a second father. Kumasawa rubbed Natsui's back, consoling her. Kraus slumped into his late father's favorite chair. By sitting there, he might have been immersing himself in memories of his departed father, or perhaps he thought that by sitting there, he might just be able to understand just a bit of the madness of Kinzo's later years, which had eluded him to the end of his father's life. Nanjo turned his back and looked down over the outside world through a crack in the curtains. It was the same thing he had often done when Kinzo sat in that chair contemplating a chess move.
同じ死ぬなら
せめて寝込んで1
If
年
he
後に
was
死亡
die
と
anyway, it would have been better if he was sick in a bed for a year or so before
もう
dying.
少し
I
しか
do
るべき
wish he
準備
could
の
have
猶予
died
期
after
間
a
を設けて
grace
から死ん
period
で
during
ほし
which
かった
proper arrangements could have been made.
それは逆だ
It's the other way
最後の
around.
瞬間まで
We
お
should
元
be
気だった
glad that
ことを
he was in
喜ぶ
high
べきで
spirits
す
until the very end.
建前上はそうなる
That will have to be my public stance, yes. Nanjo understood that as well. This was the death of Ushiromiya Kinzo, a man who has risen like a comet and glittered like a supernova in the post-war world of business. His funeral would probably be of a fantastic scale, and it would be the ceremony marking Kraus' inheritance of the headship. He would have arranged everything as the host of the event, carry out funeral diplomacy perfectly, and make it clear that the Ushiromiya family would still hold enormous influence in the political and financial spheres. As Nanjo watched Kraus, he was vividly reminded of the time when Kinzo had been suddenly selected as the Ushiromiya family head, a time in which Kinzo had been lost and confused. Nanjo could remember that well, and for that reason, he was able to understand Kraus' distress and sympathize with it. Natsui's sobs eventually subsided. Seeing this, and leaving Kumasawa to take care for Natsui as a fellow woman, Genji returned to Kraus. As he lowered his head slightly, as though asking what should be done,
手続き等は私と現地さんでやろう
Genji-san and I will deal with the
クラウスさん
formalities.
は
Kraus-san,
親戚の
perhaps
方々
you
に
should
連絡した方がい
contact
い
the
でしょう
relatives first. Kraus, with his hands over his eyes, didn't respond. Perhaps even though he had known that this day would come, Kraus really couldn't hide his shock at how suddenly he had reached them.
私と南條先生
Leave
お任せ
this to Dr. Nanjo and me.
旦那様は
Kraus-sama,
まずは
I
奥様と
suggest you
ご相談
first
いた
speak
だく
with
のが良
Madame.
い
Maybe she had heard that, or maybe it was coincidence. As though responding to Genji's words, Natsui came over. Her eyes were red from crying so much, but she apparently understood that the heavy responsibility that had been imposed on the two of them even better than Kraus did.
これからはあなたが
As of now,
栄光ある後
you
ろ
are
宮
the
家
head
を
of
通
the
します
glorious Ushiromiya
お
family.
父様の後を立
Let
派
us
に継い
show
だこ
our
と
let us show our relatives and the world that you have splendidly succeeded your
この
father.
夏日
As your wife, I am prepared to serve you until the day our coffins are laid down alongside each other. Trying to encourage her husband, who was overcome with shock, Natsui lent him some reassuring words. When Kraus finally lowered the hands that had been covering his face, he looked up at the ceiling with a blank expression and let out a deep, deep sigh.
どうかしっかり
Please, stay
お父
strong.
様の残したも
There
のを
are a
食い
great
争うと
many
目
people
論む
who
輩
will
が
intend on
大
helping
勢いるので
themselves
す
to
よ
everything father has left behind.
私たちは
We
お
must
父様
fight
の名誉
to
と財
protect
産を守
father's
るため
honor
に
and wealth.
戦わなければなりますそれが
This
後ろ
is
宮
the
家当
first
主の
responsibility
最初の仕
of
事
the
です
Ushiromiya head.
分かってる
I understand.
分かっている
I do understand.
南條先生と源
Dr.
氏
Nanjo,
お
Genji,
役所や葬儀業者への
please
手配を
take
お願
care
いし
of
ま
the
す
legal and funeral
特に
arrangements.
源氏
Especially
お
you,
父様の
Genji.
葬儀にふさ
I
わし
ask
い
that
も
you
のと
take
なるよう
particular
特に
care
手配を
and to
頼
see
みま
that
す
the funeral will be a fitting one for father.
かしこまりました
Certainly.
それから南條
And
先生
Dr.
お
Nanjo,
父様は
father
病院
didn't
でお
pass
亡くな
away
り
in
に
a
なったわけでは
hospital,
ないので
so yes.
場合によっては
An autopsy
解剖
might
が入るかもしれませ
might
んが
indeed be required depending on the
なんと
circumstances.
かなりませんか
Is there anything you might be able to do
亡くなっ
about
た
it?
とはいえお
Even
父
though
様
he
の
has
大
passed
切なお体
away,
です
father's body is precious.
傷をつけるな
Any
耐
damage
えられ
to
る
it
こと
would
で
be
はありません
unacceptable.
気持ちはわかる
I understand how you
だ
feel.
からそういうとこ
However,
ろを
it
き
is
っちりす
important
る
to
こと
follow
も
proper
大切だ
procedure when things are like this are concerned.
それにその
And I really know how to say
難
this.
しい親族の方
I
々が
feel
多いんじゃ
that
ない
several of
か
your relatives might be difficult. There was no way to know what those inheritance vultures might try to find fault with. They might squawk that there was something suspicious about the cause of death, and the use of a point of contention to start some trouble. Right now, not only was it important to pay Kinzo's remains the respect they were due, but there was also a need to focus on solidifying the position of the new family head, Kraus.
わかりました。
I
必
understand.
要最小限にお
In
願
that
いします
case, please keep it to an absolute
間
minimum.
違っても
And
お父さん
whatever
の威
you
厳が
do,
損なわれるようなお
please
姿に
make
しな
absolute
いように
sure that father's dignity remains unharmed.
それは大丈夫
That I can assure
だ
you.
安心しなさい
Please do not worry.
とにかく
In any event, leave
はわしらに
Kinzo's son
任せて
to us and
夏日さ
stay
んは
by
クラウス
Kraus
さん
on
のそ
side.
ばにいてあげなさいこれからが大変
Things are only going to get tougher for him.
分かっています
You
あなた
understand?
もどうか
And
し
you
っか
too,
り
dear. Please stay strong. Kraus was staring lazily at the ceiling with a befuddled expression on his face. Natsu understood the shock and heavy responsibility. She felt that she understood her husband's feeling as well as anyone possibly could.
親族への連絡は
I will contact the
私がしま
relatives.
す今だけは
Please
休まれてくだ
rest
さい
for the time being. Kraus didn't respond. Natsui thought that he was being a little bit weak, but that just made all the more important for her to support him right now. Seeing her husband like this actually stirred Natsui's up, and a resolute expression rose to her face.
これから忙しくなります
Things are going to get
今
busy.
できることを始め
Let's
ま
get
しょ
started with whatever we can do
う
right
夫
now.
はきっと
I'm sure my
お父様
husband
と二人
wants
き
to
り
have
で
some
話したい
time
こと
alone
もあ
with
ると思い
father.
ます私たちは一度
We should
ここを
step
退
out
出
of
しましょ
for
う
the time being.
そうでございますね。
Yes, I think that would be best.
その時間は
After all, I expect this will be the only time we'll have. Being in charge of a funeral is a tiring work. There is no time to shed tears. If Kraus were ever to be given time to cry for his dead father, that time would have to be now. Everyone agreed with Kumasawa's words. Even then, Kraus continued to lazily gaze up at the ceiling and didn't respond in any way. Natsui urged the servant to go.
私はジェシカにも話してき
Go
ます
talk to Jessica too.
今やあの子が
She
次
is
期
the
当主です
successor to the head
それ
now.
にふさわしい自
I'll
覚を
have
持
to
つように
impress upon her that she needs to be appropriately aware of it.
待て
Wait. As they each started to make their own way out of the study, Kraus finally spoke up. They stopped walking.
はい
Yes?
待て
Wait.
はい
Yes? Hadn't she already stopped walking just like her husband had asked? But despite that, he had once again told her to wait. Through those slightly weak words, Natsui understood that he had probably stopped her because he wanted to be by her side.
お前たちは下へ
The rest of you, downstairs.
私は夫と
I
言いま
will
す
stay with my husband.
何かあったらここに
Please
電
call
話
us
す
to
る
the
ように
phone, on the phone if anything happens.
かしこまりました
Certainly.
だから待てと言
I
っている
said wait! When Kraus suddenly raised his voice, everyone jumped and turned around. Unable to comprehend what she had done to spark her husband's wrath, Natsui ran up to
ど
him.
うしましたあなた
What's wrong, dear?
私は
have
何か
I
失
said
礼なことを
something
口に
rude?
してだったらお許
If
しを
so, please forgive
いや
me.
違う
No,
そうじゃ
that's
ない
not it.
そうじゃない
That's not it.
少し待て
Wait a second,
時
just
間をくれ
give me some time.
分かっています
Yes, I
心を整
understand.
理する
It's
ためにも
important
必
to
要で
have
す
time to sort things out inside your heart.
私たちはその時間
We
をあな
were
たに
just
あげよ
going
うと
to leave
こ
quietly
こ
to
から
give
静
you
かに
the
出て
time
い
you
くだけですよ
need.
だからそれを待
And
てと
I'm
言う
telling you to wait before doing that.
いいか
Listen,
誰もその場から動く
no one moves,
一歩たりとも
not even an inch.
疲れたなら
If you're
椅子に
tired,
で
then
も
feel
ソファ
free
に
to
でも
sit
好き
in
に座
whatever
れ
chair
ば
or
いい
sofa you want.
だから何も喋らずに
Just
静か
say,
に黙って
stay quiet and
何
shut
も
up
せ
in
ずによ
silence. Don't do anything, just stay here. Those unreasonable words felt like a glimpse of how Kinzo used to be. Natsui couldn't hide a slight surprise at those words, which made it seem as though Kinzo had possessed her husband. Natsui told the servants to wait for the time being. She ordered them to sit in a sofa a short distance off, approached her husband and spoke to him in a small voice.
あなたがお命じになれば
If you order it, I will wait however long you ask. I won't
ですか
move.
らどうかお気を
Please,
沈められてくださ
calm
い
yourself. No, that's not it. That's not it. Was it really father's blood, or was he actually being possessed? Krau's disorderly style of speech strongly resembled Kinzo. As he watched this, Natsui felt with even greater certainty that Kraus was indeed Kinzo's son, and that he was the true successor to the head, more suitable than any other person. Natsui, over here. Kraus stood up and headed towards the window, trying to lengthen the distance between himself and the servants, waiting on the sofa, even a small amount. Natsui realized that he must have something secret that he wanted to talk about. Yes, dear. What is it? Dad dying would be bad. Would be? But he has already passed away. We can't change reality. That's not it. Now is a bad time. What do you mean? I'm putting Dad's fortune up as collateral. Once the issue of hiding the inheritance comes up, I won't be able to hide it. What? Collateral, you say? How much? You remember how I helped out Konkun with Melody Land? Didn't I tell you to break ties with that person? You told me you'd refuse him. Why? There is such a thing as a man's honor. I couldn't refuse. Kraus claimed to hold honor as a virtue. However, Natsui knew that he most often used this as an excuse if he couldn't bring himself to pass up a deal. It wouldn't be a problem if we had plenty of money on hand. Didn't you borrow quite a lot of money for the plan to turn this island into a resort? Yes, I did. There were people here who had lent me a hand along the way. If I'm going to repay them, I just can't sit around on my hands. I need money to repay people. You need money to make money. You can't get started without money. Even if the plan for this island would be proceeding smoothly, if only there hadn't been problems with the planning company. I had the cooperation of government officials. I even have the governor's personal guarantee that this will become the newest travel destination in the Tokyo metropolis. The groundwork I laid was completely perfect. Random chance and bad timing were against me. It was just a bit of bad luck, like a traffic accident. It was no accident. It was fraud. You were tricked. They were never drawing up plans for making this island a resort in the first place. It's not true. Hijikata-kun's vision was simply overflowing with foresight. The way his eyes always focused on the whole world and future taught me that things I always believed to be mere dreams were only the tip of the iceberg of what was possible. Expand your dreams to the whole world, to the future. You heard him say that too, didn't you? Yes, I did, and I think I remember telling you what I thought about after we were done home. I said that he was suspicious, that he only spoke of dreams and that didn't have his feet planted on the ground, and that you must not have any further relations with him. Hijikata-kun is a wonderful, pleasant young man. One could learn a lot from the way he lives. I can respect him despite his youth. I won't have you insulting him. That's what you said about the whole moon tourism thing. You kept saying he was a visionary, that he looked to the future, that he had high aspirations, and what was the end result? Eventually, even you yourself admitted that was utter nonsense. I was sure something was wrong from the moment that strange man showed up claiming to be a high-ranking NASA official. The only issue was that that foreigner was an intentional swindler. Mr. Sonezaki and I both were victims on that accident. Even now, his vision isn't mistaken. There will sure definitely come a time when space tourism Well, there will definitely be a time when space tourism will become popular indulgence for the world richest. And the very first enterprise in that area will probably be monopolized by a single private company. That viewpoint is not mistaken. There is simply a group of international swindlers who are trying to take advantage of the fact and deceive investors across the world. And I'm trying to tell you that this Sonezaki man was one of them too. Just how gullible are you? Why do you always just accept these suspicious offers without any doubts? Take that back. Mr. Sonezaki is a man with a brilliant future ahead of him. There's nothing suspicious about him, because the dreams he speaks of anticipate the future. They sound crazy to people who can't look that far ahead. A woman like you can't see into the future. Yes, a woman like me can't see into the future, but I can see the present. Right in front of me I can see a pitiful husband who's been taken in this by these double-crossing swindlers, and still trust them implicitly even after he's been tricked. Oh, shut up! You don't understand anything about money or business or economics. Don't try to butt in on the job of your husband. All a wife needs to do is the housework. You just keep quiet. Without another word, Natsui felt silent, just as Kraus wanted. She was already far beyond anger and sadness, and the emotion that lay on the other side of those was an almost indifferent pity. Kraus had always been frightened of Kinzo since the day of his youth, and had always come to subconsciously admire the way his father lived. Without realizing it, he had come to believe that he could only be recognized as a man in his own right if he surpassed his father. However, Kinzo had been a mad genius, the likes of which had never been seen in the Ushiromiya family long history. His talent was a gift from heaven, and it definitely wasn't genetic, much less something that could be learned. Natsui instructed the servants not to tell anyone about Kinzo's death, and dismissed everyone for the time being, to give the two of them a chance to talk alone. Then she invited Kraus into her bedroom and made him tell everything about their current financial situation. There were things that Natsui hadn't been told about under the assumption that a woman had no business knowing. Natsui had herself made a point of avoiding this area in the past, thinking that it wasn't a wife's place to intrude on such matters. However, this might have also meant that she had been remiss in her duty as a wife to protect her family. The depths of this sin had been made quite clear to Natsui. Kraus was probably tired of trying to defend himself. Perhaps because he gotten a headache, he hid his face and sank into silence. Natsui noticed that the water in the electric kettle was boiling and stood up to refill her cup with black tea. And when she touched the cup of black tea, she noticed, for the first time, the sound of the cup and saucer clinking together told her that her fingers were shaking. Kraus had built up a large debt to obtain funds for his previous projects and to cover the losses when they failed. Of course, he had put the mansion and property up as collateral. However, doing such a thing above board would have resulted in the mortgage being registered. In other words, there would have been a record that Kraus had put Kinzo's wealth up as collateral to obtain a loan without anyone's permission. Kraus couldn't afford for Kinzo, Eva, and the others to learn about such a thing. Therefore, he had been putting those assets up as collateral using the worst possible method. I signed over the deeds. I signed over the deeds and power of attorney. And what does that mean? What does that mean? When Kraus was saying probably meant that he, in essence, signed away the rights to their assets. If those assets have been used as collateral for a loan, then Kraus would have some options under the law. He would have to deal with a bank which would have absolutely no compassion, but they would have been able to work something out within the rules set by society. However, signing away the deed and power of attorney was a whole different story. In short, even the mansion they were living in was at risk. If the person holding the deed were to decide to ignore his agreements with Kraus and sell the mansion to a third party this moment, they would have no recourse whatsoever. Far from using their house as collateral for a loan, this was basically the same as selling it to borrow money. In other words, the moneylenders had the power to make or break the Ushinomiya family as they please. If they were to suddenly sell our house on some slight whim, we'd have to pack our bags and leave right now, wouldn't we? That is technically true. However, all of these people I have agreements with are very reputable. They aren't loan sharks. These are transactions based on trust between economically literate men. I trust them, and they in turn trust that by lending me money, I will achieve great success in business and give them massive return on their investments. I signed over the power of attorney as a sign of good faith, and so that they wouldn't have to doubt in the certain success, and they wouldn't have to doubt in the certain success of my enterprises. What happens if I hesitate now? Wouldn't that mean that I have no confidence in my own ventures? If your ventures had been successful, you wouldn't be in debt now, would we? Natsui only barely stopped herself from saying it. Father is dead. What happens next? Your death will be exposed to the light of day, and your siblings will hold you responsible. That won't be all. It will probably lead to criminal charges. Criminal charges? Why is that? It's better if you don't know. The point is, we can't allow anyone to find out about this. Kraus looked at the floor shamefully, shaking his head over and over. If it would come to criminal charges, then he must have broken some laws. He had probably been so intent on raising a large sum of money that he hadn't paid any heed to appearances. Kraus had seriously believed that his many projects would definitely succeed and return huge profits. So he had figured that even if he broke a few laws, he would be able to pay everything back before too long and pretend that the whole thing had never happened. This might have lessened his resistance towards breaking a couple laws, and now, Kinza's death, the worst possible thing had occurred, and soon he wouldn't be able to keep it all hidden. What will happen to us? There is no need to worry. You may not believe, but conditions are most certainly on the rise now. The value of the city real estate I invested in is rising rapidly. I have a project in progress to consolidate those and construct a massive business tower. This is the most reliable of all of my investments so far, and is proving to be most successful. However, it will take a little more time to bear fruit, for it to bear fruit. He's absolutely certain to do so, but it will not happen immediately. Will the success of that venture be enough to pay back our debts? Of course it will. I'll be able to write off all of the debts I've accumulated so far. Believe me, I only need a little more time. But father has already passed away. We don't have we don't have that kind of time anymore. I know that. That's why I have to obtain money from somewhere and pay those debts right now. I need money, so when it comes down to money, a lot of it right now. Kraus roared and clutched his head, writing about as if in pain. And Natsui watched. Several conflicting emotions whirled about in her chest. She felt pity for her husband, but at the same time she felt he was a fool. And she also felt a mixture of anger and regret towards her own irresponsibility in letting her husband run wild for so long. It should have been clear to him before today that they were in a very critical situation, and yet he had irresponsibly waited for this moment. He had irresponsibly waited for this moment to come, and now was writing about her husband was foolish and pitiful. It was easy to feel frustrated with him. However, she was his wife, and a wife to ridicule her husband as a fool would run in conflict with her responsibilities. If he was a fool, then she would have to support him to compensate. However, she didn't have a clue what she was meant to do about this. If there was a massive amount of money like that within easy reach, there was no way that Kraus wouldn't have already laid his hands on it. It would also be easy to tell him to be a man and give up on everything, but that would also conflict with their responsibilities. She was Ushiromiya Natsui, the woman who had become Kraus' wife and sworn to support him, to the new head of the Ushiromiya family, for as long as she lived. She had to somehow help her husband in his efforts to raise money. She understood it logically, but she couldn't suppress the indescribable feeling of dejection that seemed to rise up from the dark depths of her heart. That's right. That's hidden gold. 10 tons of gold is worth 20 billion yen. If I had that. That's right. If I had that, everything could be resolved. That's it. The witch's epitaph. Let's solve that. Let's solve it together. If we can just find the gold, everything will work itself out. That's right. It must be hidden somewhere on this island. If we had that. You're hurting me, dear. Please stop this. Kraus, acting as excited as he had thought up a brilliant, perfect plan, grasped Natsui's upper arm tightly. Natsui couldn't help but be dumbfounded. It wasn't just because she had heard something as fake-sounding as the hidden gold brought up. Kraus usually disparaged the story of the hidden gold, saying that it didn't exist, and that it was all fiction his father had created to borrow a lot of money. Natsui was doubly taken aback because of this. I know. Let's have Jessica help us too. Maybe some things can only be solved with the sense of a child. This is a family crisis. All of us have to stick together. Yes. It's just a fanciful little puzzle that Dad created. We should be able to solve it. There's no way we can't solve it. It is the only way. Oh, Natsui, this is wonderful. We still have an option left, right here, next to us. The gold is on this island. If we had it, everything would be resolved. Natsui, call Jessica here right away. Let's overcome this family crisis. As a family. Yes, right now. The gold is on this island. It's right beside us. Natsui knocked Kraus aside, unable to withstand the pain in the arm he was twisting in. He was twisting in his excitement. Kraus tripped over the edge of the bed and flopped pathetically onto the floor. Please, Get a hold of
そしてど
yourself.
うか冷静に
And
なられ
please
てく
calm
ださい
down.
後ろ宮家の一
You
大事
really think that the
そんな
Ushiramiya
夢みたい
family
なことを言い出
crisis
して
could be solved by saying something as dreamlike as that?
夏希
あなたもよく頭を冷やさ
Please,
れ
cool your head off and
現実
think
的
of
な
a
人生をお
realistic
考えにな
plan
って
to
ください
gather money.
私も
I'm going to cool my head off as well.
待ってくれ
Wait,
夏希
Natsui. Maybe falling over and knocked some sense back into him. Kraus tried to tell Natsui to stop, but she just kept walking. Closing the door forcefully, Natsui dashed away. Natsui ran through the corridor. She didn't want anyone to see her like this, but she ran headlong into Genji.
大変失礼いたし
My
ました
deepest apologies, Madame.
Okay,
Have you been
ございません。
injured?
私は大事放っておきなさい
Leave me alone.
かしこまりました
Certainly.
源
Oh,
氏
Genji,
お父様の書斎は
what's
どう
the
なってい
state of father's study?
そのままにしておりま
It
す
is just as you left it.
南條先生は
Dr.
客
Nangu
間
is
に
in the
おられます
parlor.
そうですか
I
書
see.
斎の鍵は持ってい
Do
ます
you
か
have the key to the study?
はい
Yes.
ございます
Right here.
お貸しなさい
Give it to
し
me.
ばらく
Let me
私
have
とお父
some
様の
alone
二人きり
time
に
with
するよう
father.
にもし主人に
If
私
my
のことを
husband
聞かれ
asks
て
where I am,
知ら
tell
ない
him
と
you
言う
don't
の
know.
ですよ
かしこまりました
Certainly. After grabbing the key to the study that Genji was holding out to her, Natsui rushed up the stairs. She then flew into the study, and finally she cried out loud.
お父様愚かな私たちを
Father,
どうかお許しください
please forgive our foolishness.
私と主人は
My husband
お
and
父様
I
の築き上げてきた
are
ものを
incapable of inheriting all that you have created.
罪深く
Please,
愚かな私たちを
please
どうかどうかお許
forgive
しくだ
us
さい
for our foolishness and our crimes.
そして
And
もしお
And
許し
if
い
you
ただける
can
ならば
forgive us,
どうか
please guide the way for us fools. Clinging to Kinzo as he slept in the bed, Natsui cried even harder. She kept imagining Kinzo sitting up suddenly and patting her head. No, father isn't that type of person to pamper. More likely he'd yell at me to stop being so noisy. However, neither of those imaginations would come true, because it was an undeniable fact that Kinzo had entered an eternal sleep. But even so, Natsui begged the sleeping Kinzo to forgive and help them. It had only been a few hours since his passing. Perhaps his soul was still there, listening to her. Believing this, Natsui begged for Kinzo's forgiveness and help even more earnestly.
やかましいぞ
Noisy woman,
私は沈黙をたっと
don't I always say that I value silence? The voice made Natsui jump up in surprise. When she faced in the direction that the voice had come from, she saw Kinzo sitting at the study desk, folding up his reading
ま
glasses.
たクラウスと
Did you get in a fight with Kraus again?
嫁をいたわらなと
Neglecting his
ク
wife.
ラウス
Na Kraus only
私の悪い
inherited
と
my
ころばかり
my
を
bad
受け継ぎ
traits.
お父様
なんという
What
素
a
晴らし
wretched
い顔
looking face.
顔を洗い
Wash it.
仮にも後ろに
Aren't you the wife of the successor to the Ushiramiya family?
そんな情けない
You
面を
mustn't
し
let the
ように
servant
見せ
see
て
you
はな
with
ら
such a
ぬ
shameful expression.
お父様
Yes, father.
失礼しま
My
した
apologies. Natsui understood. This was just an illusion, one that Natsui had created from her desire to speak with Kinzo and her memories of the man he once was. No, that's not it. She believed that just for now, Kinzo's soul had shown itself to her. She was sure that doubting this would cause it to vanish in an instant. It seemed that a family crisis has arisen the very instant my headship was passed on.
はい、お父様。
Father,
夫を支えるこ
I
とができ
wasn't
ませ
able
んでし
to support my
た。
husband.
本当に
I am truly
申し訳ありません。
very sorry. The Ushiromi family is so very cursed. It was in a terrible state when I succeeded the headship too. The hardship that you two are suffering are trivial in comparison. Kinzo's succession to the family headship came suddenly. At the time he was nothing more than a young man from one of the branch families, far separated from the Ushiromi main family. The main family might add honor and tradition, but that was no relevance at all to Kinzo, and he couldn't have cared less. Then, the principal members of the main family were wiped out in the Great Kanto earthquake, along with their businesses. On top of that, there was a complicated antagonism between the members of the family at the time, and the elders were all trying to impose their will on the others in that sinking ship. Because of this, they weren't even able to elect a leader to rebuild the Ushiromi family. They found common ground by selecting Kinzo, a youth with absolutely no ties to any of the opposing elders, to be the head. So the elders hadn't really entrusted Kinzo with rebuilding the Ushiromi family. Kinzo had been nothing more than their puppet, with his arms and legs being pulled in opposite directions.
はい、
Yes,
お父様の
I
苦難
know
の
a
日
lot
々
about your days of
よく
suffering,
存じており
Father.
ます。
And then the war started. I was already tired of life at that point. I hoped to die on the battlefield, but I wasn't sent to the front lines. However, the state of the war grew worse with every day, and the time for the decisive battle on Japanese mainland seemed to grow even closer. As bad as it might sound, I hoped that that day would come quickly. It was said that Kinzo listened to Death's approaching footsteps day in and day out. He started cutting his ties with this world one by one, and then, on the day when he freed himself from all of these attachments to life. And then, on that day when he freed himself from all his attachments to life and reached a state of enlightenment, he had a mystical experience. And he met her, the Golden Witch Beatrice. I made a contract with the witch and was given gold and the power of madness. On that day, that old me died, and a new one possessing the insane power of magic was born.
存じております。
I know.
そして戦後、
After the
お
war,
父様は
you used your
天才的な
ingenious
強み
cunning to
後ろ
revive
向
the
きを復興
Ushiromi
させる
family.
のです。
The now deceased elders who knew Kinzo at the time had whispered to each other that Kinzo must have taken a knock to the head on the battlefield and had returned with a different personality. That was how much Kinzo stood out after the war. Whether the story about Kinzo meeting a witch was true or not, there could be no doubt that the extraordinary experience of war had prepared him for death and let him reach a state of enlightenment. Natsui must have surely felt that if Kinzo had decided to describe that resulting mystical experience as a meeting with a witch, that wasn't something she could flatly dispute.
そうですね。
That's
お
right.
父様は戦
You
争から
returned from the
魔女
war,
ベアトリーチェを
conquered the
従え
witch Beatrice,
真の意味で
and
後ろに
became the
あった
head
教
of
師
the
となられた
Ushiromi
のです
family in the truest sense. Correct. Before I met Beatrice, I was nothing more than a puppet, and only the head in name. I only became the head after conquering the Golden Witch.
お父様、その
Will this Golden Witch aid my husband the Kraus now that he's the new head? Oh, she will, assuming that he has truly succeeded the headship.
真に継承
What
す
do you
る
mean
と
by
は
truly
どういう意味です
succeeded?
か？
I mean, it depends on whether he bears the responsibility and pride of the Ushiromiya family head in the truest sense. Natsui, you should understand this. Headship is not inherited by blood. It is inherited through spirit and conviction. Even though Kraus is my eldest son, he cannot be called a true head if he does not possess these things. And even someone other than Kraus would make a splendid new head, so long as that spirit dwells within their heart. The Golden Witch Beatrice will lend her power to that true head. Isn't that right, Beatrice? When Kinzo called the witch's name, gold butterflies seeped out of every corner of the room. This fantastical scene had an otherworldly beauty to it. It was like standing in the midst of a blizzard of golden flower petals, being blown about a rose garden of gold. As Natsui stared at this scene in shock, the gold butterflies gathered and formed a human shape. Then the witch of the portrait appeared. Indeed, I am the Ushiromiya family alchemist, the Golden Witch Beatrice. I am free to run rampant. I do not listen to anyone's orders. And there's only one person in the world who can control her. Me. That is why I'm qualified to be the Ushiromiya family head. So that pride of yours is really what qualifies you to be the head? Pride implies self-confidence and bravery, and it is the embodiment of the insatiable desire to gain the power to match. That is why I control you. It is quite pleasant to watch men who speak of pride as they turn that desire into reality. The quiet man of action is nothing more than an excuse used by the extremely lucky. A true monarch also speaks of what he doesn't have, and makes sure to turn that arrogance, that pride, into reality. If one is to control me, they must possess that monarch's pride. Do you understand, Natsui? A true monarch fears no hardship. They declare that they will overcome anything without fail, even if they haven't yet figured out how. This gives hope to the weak. This gives hope to the weak people. They gather, revere the monarch, and swear to assist him. That is where power is gained, and his word is carried out. Engrave that in your heart. Yes. Natsui understood. Through this mystical experience, Kinzo was teaching her the attitude required to overcome hardship, even after his own death. Feeling a warm sensation rise up in her chest, she let the valuable words Kinzo had given her echo through her mind over and over. A true monarch, in other words, the true head of the Ushiromiya family, was not to fear hardship. They had to believe that they could overcome any hardship. If they could not believe themselves capable, then there was no reason why they would be. Natsui suddenly felt very ashamed of the way she had come into this room, sobbing and asking Kinzo what to do. I was foolish. Of course, there's no time for crying when the Ushiromiya family crisis is upon us. And now that we have inherited the Ushiromiya family from you, Father, we must protect its honor no matter what. Wow. Even though you can't even draw a blueprint on how to repay his Kraus debts. As Beatrice laughed unpleasantly, no, But wasn't it? She was testing Natsui to see whether she possessed the mental readiness to be a true monarch. Natsui didn't hesitate anymore. She answered directly, gazing into Beatrice's eyes. Yes, at this moment, I have not yet discovered the method that we should pursue. However, my husband is the new head of the Ushiromiya family, and I am his supporting wife. So, in my husband's place, I will proclaim it. Let us hear it. Ushiromiya, Kraus, and Natsui will definitely overcome these trials and protect the honor of the Ushiromiya family. You have nothing to worry about, Father. You do know the scope of Kraus' theft, as well as the disastrous state things are in. Yes, things could hardly be worse. We could even be ordered to leave this mansion tomorrow, and we wouldn't be able to refuse. Once the distribution of the inheritance comes up, his relatives might even file a criminal complaint against us. However, there is no need to worry. We will repay all of the debts before then and restore our honor. As she stood at attention with a resolute attitude, Natsui proclaimed this clearly, with Ushiromiya Kinzo and Beatrice as witnesses. For a while, they remained silent, as though weighing Natsui's resolve. Then Kinzo chuckled and turned away. How vexing. Why couldn't you? Why couldn't this person have been my son? The very fact that a woman with such a disposition married your son is another sign of your great luck. Beatrice, this is my final order. Now that you are no longer the head, I am not obligated to obey your orders. In that case, obey the orders of the new Ushiromiya family head. You are no longer the head, and Kraus is not yet the head. Whom are you suggesting that I serve? I will leave that to you. It is up to you to decide who is qualified to succeed the Ushiromiya family head, and who is fitting to bear the mark of the one-winged eagle. You will be my witness. I refuse. I won't listen to the orders of a man who isn't in the head. No, this is different. This is a will. The last order that the head left behind for you. Then it seems like I have to obey. What a good friend I am. I think not. Oh? You're only doing this because it caught your interest. I can't hide anything from you, can I? Natsui. Yes, Father. Go and overcome your hardship. Yes. To Natsui, that might have been nothing more than a simple response, but to Kinzo and Beatrice, it seems to carry much greater significance. Beatrice nodded deeply, and with a motion as elegant as her dress, she bowed deeply before Natsui. The Ushiromiya family alchemist, the Golden Witch Beatrice, is right here. I will give you my aid so the Ushiromiya family can overcome crisis once again. Thank you. I will need your power. We will most certainly overcome these trials. I will not hold back on my support for your cause, but there is something I must warn you about beforehand. I understand that your troubles now could be solved if I were to bestow you a vast amount of gold again, like I did when I saved Kinzo from his crisis. However, there is something I cannot do. I see. Sorry, Natsui. The contract for Beatrice's gold stated that it cannot be inherited. It was agreed that it could only be passed on to another if that person solved the witch's epitaph. The gold is sealed away by the epitaph. As long as that's not solved, I cannot give you the magic of gold.
わかりました。
I
なら
understand.
ば他の方法で
Then I shall
この
search
窮地
for
を
another
脱する
method
方法を
by
模索
which we
しま
can
しょう。
save ourselves from
主
crisis.
人は時間をかけ
My
ると言って
husband
います。
said that his
必
plan
ず
that
借金
his
は
plan
返済
will
できると言
would
ってい
take
ます。
time, but he also said that that it would definitely be sufficient to repay our
そのため
debts.
の時間を得ることがで
If we
きれ
can
ば
buy enough time for that to happen, we will be able to overcome this trial.
良い
Good,
夏
Natsui.
続け
Continue.
しかし金蔵は
But
もう死ん
Kinzo
で
is already dead. The doctor and
そ
servants are preparing his funeral, and you will be contacting the family members about
な
it.
たは自
The
ら
window of
そ
opportunity
の
for you
金
to
策の猶
raise
予時
money
間を
will
終
be
わらせる
closed
宣
by
言
your
を
own
すること
hand.
になる。
How charming is a guillotine where you lower your blade yourself, where you lower the blade yourself. Natsui gasped and looked up at the ceiling. There wasn't anything there. But even so, Natsui had found something.
降りた
So,
魔力
the magical power has descended.
夏日決まっ
Natsui,
た。
have you made
我
up
々
your
の
mind?
望む奇跡
What
の魔
magic
法
of miracles do you desire from me? All of those who had witnessed Kinzo's corpse were once again gathered in the study. Kraus was still very unsettled and clutching his head. Kenji was as expressionless as ever. Nanjo and Kumasawa wore bewildered expression on their faces. But in stark contrast to all of them, Natsui's expression was resolute.
あなたにもう一度お尋
Dear,
ねします。
let me ask you one more
金
time.
策は
Your
間違いない
plan
の
for
です
raising money is absolutely certain. Yes.
1
Give a year, no, just
全て
half a
半年あ
year,
れば
and it will
必ず
certainly
実る計画
bear
なん
fruit.
だしかし
But it is just impossible to hope for anything right this second.
ならば
Then
それを待ちましょう。
we will wait.
しかし
You said it yourself.
こいつはもう
Ted is already dead.
お父様はお亡くなりになって
Father
いませんよ。
hasn't passed away.
まだこうして
As you can see, he is healthy as ever. When Natsui said this, everyone looked up instantly, startled, because they immediately understood what those words meant. However, Kraus alone didn't get it right away and had to ask.
それは
What
どういう意味
do you mean by that?
親父はもう
That is right here, and
Dennis.
he's...
繰り返します。
I will say it
お
again.
父様は未だ
Father
に
is still
ご
in
健
good
在
health.
であられます。ご自身の研
He
究
is
がお忙し
busy
いの
with
で
his
これ
research,
まで以上に
so he'll
書
be
斎を出
even
ること
less
はできま
able
せ
to
ん。
leave his study than usual.
ですから私たち
Because
は
of this, we
お父
must
様が
handle
研究
all
に専念
external
できるように
affairs
お父
ourselves,
様に不要
so
な
that
お仕事
father
が
can
及ばない
devote
ようにしな
himself
く
to
ては
his
なりません。
research without being burdened by meaningless tasks.
つまりそれは
In short,
これまでと
nothing
何
will
ら変
change
わら
from
な
the
いと
way
いう
things
こと
have been up until
理
now.
解できていますね。
Do you
現
understand, Genji?
はい
Yes.
片翼のわしの家
The
具
furniture of the one good eagle will continue to serve the master.
熊沢、そ
Kumasawa,
して南條
and
先
you,
生、
Dr. Nanjo,
私の
do
話
you
は理
understand
解
what
で
I'm
きましたね
saying?。
あの
それでいいのかね
Is it
夏井さん
really what you want to do, Natsui-san?
お父様は確
It
か
may
に
be
今日
true that
お亡
father
くなりになった
passed
かも
away
しれ
today.
ません。しかし、
But if
今この
everyone
場にいる
here
私
right
たち
now
全員が信
believes
じることで、
we can use
お父
magic
様を
to
蘇ら
revive
せる魔
father.
法を使うことができます。
無理ですよ
It
奥
is
様
impossible, madam.
そんな
That's just too much.
解剖すれば死亡時期
Time
が
of
特定
death
され
will be
る
determined during the
不
autopsy.
審がられるこ
We
とは
can't
避けら
stop
れ
it from looking suspicious.
お父様はお亡くなり
Father
にな
will
らないの
not
で
pass
すから。
away, so there will be no reason for there to be an autopsy. Of course, she wasn't planning to make Kinzo live forever. The fake life given to Kinzo would only last until Kraus could repay his debts. After that, Kinzo's soul would finally be able to sleep in peace. Nanjo repeated himself that the time of death would be discovered during the autopsy, but Natsui said again that this wouldn't be a problem.
お父様は
Father
死
would
亡
not
届に
pass
よってお
away
亡く
by
なりに
being
なるのでは
reported
ありませ
dead.
ん。
I see.
失踪
You've
届か
been reported missing. After clapping his hands together, Kraus stood up, shaking his
そう
fists.
です。
Yes,
借金が無事に返
once
済
we've
で
managed to pay
お
back
父
the
様
debt
にお休みいた
and,
だける準備
finish the
が整ったなら
preparations to lay fathers
そ
to
の時
rest,
お
we
父
will
様の
announce that
失踪を
father
宣言
had
し
disappeared. Rokkenjima's vast, uncultivated forest was the perfect place to stage a disappearance. One day, Kinzo would have to go out to the forest for a walk and never return. They would search for him without success and be forced to report his disappearance.
失踪なら
If he disappears, we can file a report for his death even without a corpse.
つまり
In
死
other
亡時期を
words,
隠せ
we
るとい
can
うことだ
conceal the time of death.
どうだ
What do
なん
you
と先
think,
生
Dr. Nanjo?
これなら何の問題もな
There
い
won't be any problems this way.
確かにそういうことに
Yes,
はな
I
ります
can
が
see the logic, but
それで良いのですか、奥様。
you sure about this, madame?
確かに私たちが
Yes,
黙っ
if
ていれば、
it's all
親
of
方様
if
が
all
お
of
亡
us
く
can
なり
keep
になら
quiet,
れ
then
たのは秘
perhaps
密
we
にで
could
きる
keep
か
it
も
a
しれませ
secret
ん。
that the master has passed
で
away.
すが、
But there
ど
are
こ
so
でどう
many
間
ways
違って
that
誰
one of
かに
us could
知られ
slip
ない
up
と
and
も。
allow someone to find out.
熊沢声
Kumasawa,
が大きいです
keep your voice
お父
down.
様はあちら
Have
で
you
お休み中
forgotten
な
that
の
father
で
is sleeping right over
起
there?
こしてしまわれるつ
Are
も
you
りですか
trying to wake him up? It isn't a corpse. Kinzo is sleeping. As Natsui said that, Kinzo laid quietly on the bed as though there was nothing at all about her words. Come, try to
そなた
remember
がど
what
んな姿を
form
してい
did you
たそな
have?
たがどんな
What
日々を
sort of
謳歌してい
life
たの
did you enjoy? Once again, a storm of gold butterflies started to swirl, covering Kinzo's cold body. Then, after the butterflies exploded into fine gold powder and disappeared, just like those fairy tales that have been told over and over since long ago, Kinzo slowly opened his eyes and sat up.
お父様
Father,
夏
Natsui,
先に我が
let me
目
first make one thing clear.
私は生
I
へ
did
の
not
執着
coax
か
you
ら
into
そ
doing
なた
this
にこれを
because I have an
そそのかした
attachment to
のでは
life.
嘘つき
You liar.
多少は予
Don't
見
tell
し
me
て
you
いたで
didn't
あろうか
anticipate this at least a
どう
little.
だ金蔵
How does it feel,
体
Kinzo?
の方は
How is your body?
悪くは
It isn't bad, but it feels somewhat like I'm being in a dream.
重みが
I
ない
こ
feel light.
の世にとどまることを許
As
せる
beings
存
not
在が
permitted to remain
まだ
in
と
this
どまっているの
world
だ
still remains here.
多少の不自
You'll
由
have
は
to
諦
accept
めよ
a little discomfort.
お体は本当
Is
に
your
大丈夫
body
なのですか
truly alright?
本当に
Are you
大丈夫なので
really
すか
alright?
むしろ
Actually, this feels quite
これ
pleasant.
が死後の
If
世界
this is what the world after death feels
幽霊
like,
気取りの
playing the part of a ghost might not be so bad.
これにてどうか
How's this, Natsui?
金蔵はよみがえ
Kinzo has
故
revived.
に葬儀は
That means that the funeral is
そなた
unnecessary.
の苦難は
Your
これに
hardship
て
has
解
been
決だ
resolved.
ベアトリーチェ
Beatrice. As Natsui tried to find words of gratitude, Beatrice waggled her index finger and spoke.
感謝の言葉はいら
There's
な
no
い
need for
支
thanks.
配者は
A
傲慢で
ruler
あれば
should be
よい
proud.
わらわは
I
頼
do
みは
not
聞
pay
かぬ
heed
だ
to requests,
命令には
but I
従
do
うのだ
follow orders.
それでも言います
I'll say it even
あり
so.
がとう
Thank
こ
you.
れで
This way you've bought some time for my husband.
あとは私たち
We'll
の
be
仕
able
事
to handle the rest.
しかし夏
Be warned,
ここ確か
Natsui.
に金蔵はよみ
Kinzo
がえ
may have revived, but
それは
that's
永
not
遠
an
では
eternal thing.
我が魔力が
It
続
will
く
only
限り
continue as long as my magic
半
does.
魔法の毒素によ
Be
り
warned that the
魔法は破られて
anti-magic
しまうかもしれ
toxins
ない
might
ことを
destroy
心
the
せ
magic.
魔法の
You
断りを
must
正しく理
understand
解
the
し
laws of magic
その以前に
correctly
努め
and work hard to maintain
わらわ
it.
はそなたに
I
奇
can
跡を
show
見せ
you
る
a miracle, but it is your role to grasp it and hold it together.
無論です
Of
あなた
course,
にもらったこの
we
奇跡
won't neglect the miracle
私
you
たち
have
は
given
決して
us.
それで
Very good.
なるほどな
I see. It seems masters do not need to be changed every once in a while, just like floor mats. No, it seems masters do need to be changed, just like floor mats. I like it. I shall serve you. Ushiromi Natsu. I am the Ushiromi family alchemist, the Golden Witch. Call me whenever you wish, and I shall appear and grant you a miracle.
ありがとう。
Thank you.
私は
I am Ushiromi Natsu.
あなたを刺激
I
し
will employ you to protect the honor of the Ushiromi family. Amiche per la pelle. The family conference of the previous year, October 5th, 1985. E ci fermiamo qua. Appena conclude questo slideshow iniziale. The rose garden was truly splendid this year. The roses were blooming like crazy, as though they were competing with each other. Singhiozzo. In that rose garden, Kinzo, Kanon, and Natsui could be seen. Once again, the flowers have grown wonderfully this year. It must be the result of your care.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much.
今年は気候
The
が良か
weather
った
just happened to be good this year.
普段にも増して
Thanks to your
庭園が
care,
美しく
this
保たれて
garden
いま
is
す。
even more beautiful than
見
usual.
事です。
Good work.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much.
今日という日でさえなかったな。
If today weren't so special, we might have been able to admire the roses while enjoying some black tea. Kinzo shrugged. Today was the family conference. When it came to the other siblings' businesses, they hadn't heard anything good. On the contrary, those siblings probably planned to turn the conversation to the topic of Kinzo's remaining life. And and hold a quiet feud over the inheritance. Those people are quite unpleasant. By the way, what about Kraus? Is that debt repayment plan of his proceeding well?
確かに現実性の
It
ある
really
計画
does
のよう
seem
で
to
す。
be a realistic
た
plan.
だ計画の
However,
規
the
模がだい
scale
ぶ
of
大
the
きい
plan
よう
appears
で
to be quite
なかなか
large,
思い通り
and
に
it doesn't
結実
seem
し
to
な
be
いよう
bearing
です。
fruit as well as he expected.
可能なら
If possible, I had hoped that something could be done before today's family
なんとか
conference.
したかったものだな。
はい。
Yes,
申し訳ございませ
my
ん。
apologies.
良いのか金
Are
蔵
you sure that's alright, Kinzo?
そんなところをのんびり
Casually
散歩して
walking
お
around
って
in a place like that? How has she gotten up there? Well, it's pretty pointless to wonder about that sort of thing when you're dealing with a witch. Beatrice was casually sitting on the roof of the arbor, almost as though she had been basking in the sun.
半魔法の毒素の
Those
塊
relatives
であ
are
る
like a massive
親族
lump
ども
of
が押しかけてくる
anti-magic
のです
toxin, and they'll be intruding on us.
立ち合わせになっ
If you
たら
bump into them,
そなた
your
の魂
soul
が
will evaporate
一
in an
瞬で蒸
instant.
発してしまうぞ
すでに死んだ身。
I am already dead.
蒸発もまた
Even evaporating would be no detriment.
そういうわけには
We
まいり
can't
ません。
have that
ど
happen.
うか後ろ見明けのため
Please,
に
for the sake of the Ushiromi
お
family,
力をお貸しくだ
lend
さ
us
い。
your strength just a little longer.
夏日
Natsui.
親族どもの乗った
It
船が
seems that the boat with the
こちらへ向かった
relatives
ようだぞ。
on it has left the
そ
arbor.
ろそろ散歩
It
は終わ
might
り
be
に
a
した方
good
がよ
idea
か
to
ろう
end your walk soon.
そうですか。
Is that
あり
so?
がとう。
Thank
お父
you.
様は書斎
Please
へお戻りく
return
だ
to
さ
the
い。
study, father.
やれやれ。
Just
この
great.
絶好の
A shame that I must go back when the weather is so perfect.
愚痴るな金蔵
Don't grumble,
今の
Kinzo.
そなたは
Right
わらわ
now,
に
you are
侵されてい
nothing
るだ
more
け
than
の
a
幽
ghost
霊
that
で
I
ある
gave life to.
そなたに毒素
It'll
で
be
消し飛ばれて
troublesome
は
for both
わ
me
らわ
and
もどっちも
Natsui
困る
if
の
you're
で
scattered away by the toxin.
おとなしく書斎へ
Just be a good boy, shut yourself away in the study and put a blanket over yourself or something.
死してなおバラを
Just
めでる
being given the chance to enjoy the roses even after death
とする方が
makes me extremely fortunate.
わかっ
I understand.
書斎へ戻
I
る
shall return to the study.
だが
I would like some black tea. Canon, tell Genji to bring me some. Some Marco Polo would be nice today.
かしこまりました。
Certainly.
では解散
Then
しよ
let's us go our separate ways.
う。
Natsuki,
私抜き
I want you to conduct the family conference splendidly without me.
もちろんですお父さん。
Of course, father.
彼らの前で
He
名乗る
can't
ことは
say
できませんが
he can't say it in front of them, but my husband is already the Ushiromiya family head,
私も
and
その妻
I
とし
will
て
do
恥ず
all
か
I
しくない
can
よ
to see that I
う
don't
魅力を尽くしま
embarrass
す
him as his wife.
朝からいつを起こし
Compared to Kraus, who had a stomachache since this morning, you are very composed, Natsui.
我が息子が
My son is quite hopeless.
主人にも主人の才能があ
My
ります
husband is talented in his own
そ
way.
の及ばぬところを支え
Supporting
て
him
こ
where
そ
he's weak is my
私は
duty
妻なので
as
す
his wife.
しっかりやれ
Give it your best.
私は
I will make sure to stay shut away so that I don't get in the way of this farce.
カノンお父様を書斎
Canon,
までお連れ
go
し
with
なさい
father to the
それ
study,
から
and then have Genji serve some black tea.
肩を借りるほど能力して
Not so senile that I need your help to stand up. Here I go. Refusing Canon help to lend him a hand, Kinzo rose from the flower bed he'd been sitting on. Sì, però Canon... The retired head left everything in Natsui's hand and returned to the study at a gentle pace. Ma c'è tipo Canon che fa... Milady, tutto a posto? Kinzo? Sì, Canon, aiutalo ad alzarsi. Canon si gira, c'è la sedia lì, mi si dice, la panchina vuota. Ha detto di lasciare perdere, che ce la fa da solo. Ok, va bene. Vai a dire a Genji di preparargli il tè. Sì, madame. Non ho capito.
様になっているぞ
You're looking
金
well.
蔵の亡き
You
妻
possess a
に
sense of
多感力があり
dignity similar to Kinzo's deceased wife.
万一
On the off chance that the anti-magic toxin does get to
魔
father,
法は瞬時
will
に
the
かけて
magic
しまうんです
dissolve
か
in an instant?
うん
Yes,
瞬く間だ
in the blink of an eye.
わらわは姿
I
を
can
消せばいい
simply
のだ
erase my form if necessary, but if someone already dead as Kinzo loses his form, he will be blown away by the winds of the sun and disappear like dust in a matter of seconds.
用心せよ
You must take care.
分かってい
Yes,
ます
I understand.
そなたには
You might have talent as a witch. The anti-magic toxin have been building up in your system over the years, and yet you're still able to understand magic. If you and I had met during my youth, you might have become a powerful witch by now. Natsuitrice! Natsuitrice!
私は後
I
ろ宮
am
クラウス
Ushiromiya's
の
Kraus wife,
当主夫
the
人
head's wife.
名誉を守るた
I
め
would
には
become I would become even a witch or a demon to protect his honor.
あなたの魔法の
I
力
am
で
deeply grateful for the power of your magic.
後ろ宮家の名誉はあなた
I
の
wouldn't
力
have
な
been
くし
able
て
to
守りま
protect
せ
the
ん
honor of the Ushiromiya family without you.
その話は機会を改めよう
Let's discuss that another
その
time.
際はぜ
I'd
ひ
like to enjoy it with
女
just the
同士
two of
二
us
人きりで
women
のん
drinking
びり
tea.
紅茶を楽しみたいものだな
スリランカに行った友人
A
が
friend of mine who went to Sri Lanka sent me a black tea with a wonderful rose fragrance.
おおディンブラか
Oh, you mean dimbula?
悪く
That isn't bad.
ならば
Then
チャ
you
ウキ
should
は
also
パティ
have
スが良い
patties
ぞ
on the side.
この度の親族
You
会
must
議が無
serve
事に
me
ごまか
some
し
as
通
a
せたな
reward
ら
if I manage to
我々の
trick
ご褒美
everyone
と
for
し
the
て
whole
それを
upcoming
ぜひ
family
振る舞え
conference.
約束であるぞ
Promise me now.
わかりました
Understood.
約束しましょ
I
う
promise.
では
Then
後ほど
I'll see you later.
うん
Yes.
後ほどな
Later it is. E qui anche qua mi immagino tipo Genji, preparami 2 tazze di tè dello Sri Lanka che mi ha mandato quella mia amica là. 2, madame? Sì, una per me e una per la strega Beatrice. si gira, va così. Kasumarimashita. E va, anzi, kasumarimashita. E va via, e mentre va via dice: ah cazzo, un'altra scoppiata. Ma non è possibile avere un padrone di casa normale nella... Vabbè. E quando torna tipo: potrebbe portarne un'altra tazza qui per Kinzo? Natsui watched her go, then turned on her heels and headed for the mansion. Potevo chiamare questo episodio Gli amici immaginari di Natsui, comunque. After that there was no one left in the rose garden. Perché sono così trasparente per il verde? Alright then. It's break time. Any complaints about how things have gone so far? None at all. If you gotta pee, why don't you just go do it now? What a rude thing to say. Kinzo is already dead, remember? But he's walking around and talking, isn't he? Doesn't that mean this is magic? Well, I doubt this move would work on you after all this time, but what about you, Butler? Isn't this weird? You don't have to accept the existence of magic that revived Kinzo. Don't you have to, okay? If you're trying to imitate Beato, stop it right now, because it's pissing me off. Figured it out? Then come on. How are you gonna answer, Butler? Kinzo was just out of a... Kinzo was just out for a stroll. Why don't you do what you usually do and start holding your head, crying? This doesn't make any sense. Come on, use that Zenzen Damet as a catchphrase and let me hear your classic crazy counter-argument. Oh, Andrew mi hai ammazzato con quel commento. Canon, usa la tua spada di luce dal braccio per tagliare queste rose. Certo, madame. C'ha come si dice? Quelli per tranciare, no? Le forbici da giardino, non so come si chiamano. E tipo fa... Oh. Povera Natsui. Cesoie, grazie. There's no way that a human who's supposed to be dead could be walking around, right? It's this all because of some unknown virus called the Rokkenjima syndrome, which causes mass delusions? Or do the scales of a mysterious form of butterflies that only live on Rokkenjima happen to be hallucinogenic? Or is it all because a mysterious secret organization called Yamainu, made of as of yet undiscovered drug called Puru Puru Piku Puyu, which causes mass delusion? Let me hear tons of wonderful crap. Just shut up. This isn't even a problem. Grandfather is dead at this point in time. There is no way he exists. The only reason everything behaving as though he actually exists is because that's the lie that Aunt Natsui scusate. It's the only reason everything is behaving as though he actually exists is because that's the lie that Aunt Natsui is creating in an attempt to hide grandfather's death and trick her way through the family conference. Oh, it's Natsui's lie? You can revive the dead by lying? Wouldn't that make it Natsui's magic? This world is like a brown tube before you've looked in it. If the world of the cat box It's the world of the cat box before you open
夏
it.
日おばさんが
As long as Aunt Natsui says that she took a walk with grandfather, and as long as no one can confirm that that's a lie, it's possible to display Aunt Natsui's taking a walk in the rose garden with grandfather as Natsui's reality.
だから
That means it's possible for grandfather to appear. That extremely unflattering applause was coming from Ben Castle.
ブラボー。あなた、ベアトがいないと
Bravo,
冷静な
you're much calmer without Beato around.
うるさい
Quiet.
お前も黙れ
You shut up too.
お待ちなさいよ
Wait a second, Butler. According to your theory, sure, it might really be possible for Kinzo to appear if Natsu is the only person there. If Natsu is claimed to have observed Kinzo in a world with no one except Natsu in it, then no one can deny it, right?
でもあの場に
But
は
Canon was in the same place and he was also looking at Kinzo, right? Ecco, a proposito, quello su cui abbiamo memato prima.
それをどう説
How
明
would
す
you
る気なの
explain
よ
that?
全く問題
That's
ない
no
な
problem at
カノン
all.
君は
Canon-kun is a servant who works for the Ushiromiya family.
夏日おばさん
Aunt Natsui probably ordered him to keep to her story so that she can hide grandfather's death.
だから
This means that just like Aunt Natsui, Canon can sing grandfather even though grandfather isn't supposed to exist. Too bad, Lambda. Butler isn't going to fall for that kind of child's play anymore.
そうみたいね
It seems so. Well, there is nothing more than an open. This is nothing more than an opening before the
料理
game,
の前のアペリ
like an aperitif before a meal,
飲み屋のお通し、
an appetizer at a
寿司
bar,
屋の緑
green
茶。
tea at a sushi restaurant.
うるせえ
Shut up.
青字で言い直さなきゃ
So,
先に
aren't
進
we
めねえの
going?
か
So we aren't gonna get anywhere unless I see it again in blue text.
そうね
Looks like it.
一応もらえる
Would you mind?
じい様がすでに死んで
The
いる
reason grandfather is strolling around like nothing happened, even though he's already
じい
dead,
様が生きている
is
と
that the
思わせ
people
たい
who
連
want
中
to
が生み出
make
して
it seem as though he's alive created an illusion of
同じ
him.
思惑を持つ人間
Everyone
たち
with
は
the same
その幻想
intention
を
can
共
share
有で
in
きる
that illusion.
そして
Then they talk as though grandfather actually exists and was with them until a second ago.
だから
That's why he's strolling around like it's perfectly natural.
よって
Because of this, the illusion of grandfather is unable to appear in front of people who aren't in on it, on this with Aunt
だから
Natsui.
こそ
That's why they needed to set up. That's why they needed to set it up so that he would shut himself away in his study and not come out. In the games before now, grandfather was always shut away in his study. We never met him directly. Ooh. However, there were some people who spoke in a way that made it seem like he was locked up in his study in a bad mood and who claimed to have met him only a short while ago. We blindly accepted that and believed that grandfather was in his study. That's why it was possible for an illusion of grandfather to exist in the study. That's right, in the games before now, the only people who met grandfather were Uncle Kraus, Aunt Natsui, and the servants. Because they all stuck to the same story, an illusion of grandfather was able to exist on this island, making it seem like he was alive.
ご丁寧にも
You were even kind enough to show me a scene at the beginning of this game.
じい様の死を隠
Of
すため
Aunt
に
Natsui conceiving Dr. Nanjo and the rest to cover up grandfather's death. I'm not gonna fall for this kind of
こ
cheap
んな
trick
子供
now.
騙しには引っかからねえぜ
やるじゃん
Not bad.
未知の薬物
But I was hoping for the unknown drug Puru Puru Piku Puyo.
そんな妄言
There's no way he'd say something so ridiculous, right?
だって
After all, supposing there's such a thing that exists would be just as bad as surrendering to the fantasy
ウイルスだろう
genre.
と
Whether it's a virus or a drug or an illness, anything that hasn't been discovered yet is in violation of Nox's fourth commandment. What do you mean? Fourth commandment? Nox fourth. It is forbidden for unknown drugs or obscure scientific devices to be used. It is a rule that these cannot be used for murder. What? I don't know what world you've been living in, but an unknown drug X and an unknown scientific device X are the best kind of weapons to use when fighting against a witch. Yes, those. They all violate the rules of proper mystery stories. Supposing an unknown virus, an unknown drug, an unknown sickness, or an unknown X was used puts it totally in the fantasy genre. My condolences. If that was your theory, then it's game over for you. Niente. Ci ha bloccato dall'approbazio diabolica. I comandamenti di Nox, ragazzi. Li conosceremo tutti, prima o poi. What are you talking about? I think you've been fighting in direct opposition to Beato. No, you think you've been fighting in a direct opposition to Beato? But that's not actually true. You haven't been in direct opposition. You've been fighting from a diagonal angle. All this playing detective you've done hasn't been fantasy versus mystery. It's only been fantasy against versus anti-fantasy. I don't have a clue what you're talking about. There's one thing I do get. It sounds like you're saying there's something wrong with the way I've been fighting. We are fighting to kill the fantasy known as the witch illusion. That means interpreting this tale as a proper mystery. In other words, from the very start we have to forget about any and all elements that would violate the taboos of the mystery genre. Forget about them? For example, several locked rooms murders that have occurred in the games before now, right? Yeah. At every single crime scene, to make sure there are no hidden doors, you've been enthusiastically checking with Beato, haven't you? Weaving a flashy bunch of red troops together all over the place, almost as though that itself was the battle. I call that a waste of time. After all, it's clearly specified by Nox's third commandment. It is forbidden for hidden passages to exist. In the mystery genre, hidden passages mustn't exist. So when trying to interpret anything as a proper mystery, having a debate over whether there are hidden doors or not is a defeat from the beginning, don't you see? After all, there aren't any. As soon as you suspect that they might exist, and it's already game over for you. In other words, the way you assume that you can't use reason just because it hasn't been proven that hidden doors don't exist at the crime scene makes you simply naive and a failure at mysteries. You've already lost once you start thinking. You've already lost once you start thinking, Dan. That you were trying to interpret everything within the bounds of the mystery genre, right? Then you've got to follow its conventions. Grazie, Berna. That's how it is. Hidden doors must not exist at any of the crime scenes. That means anything you do to trick and check whether they exist or not is a waste of time. I think I know what you're talking about. I've heard about it somewhere. It's this like the 10 basic rules for mystery novels or something. Yeah, that's right. They're the 10 witch-piercing wedges brandished by Nox, the peerless archbishop of witch hunting. Those are the true weapons with which to fight and defeat the fantasy known as the witch illusion head-on. Just like you, Ben, bringing in such annoying weapons. They're the fantasy side's worst enemies. So you deny the existence of hidden doors right from the start, without even investigating the crime scene. That's what sounds like fantasy to me. Lambda is in charge of the witch side, is fantasy. I'm the one who's fighting her, mystery. What are you? The most you can do is repeatedly dodge and deny fantasy, which makes you merely anti-fantasy. You're opposed to absolutely everything, but you can make no counter-proposals. You're like a politician from some government. Shut up. I didn't come here to speak gibberish with you two. Just get on with the story. Quiet down. The sleeping princess behind you is suffering, you know? When he turned around, he saw Beato's living corpse resting in a chair. However, sweat glistened all over her body, and it felt like she was breathing a little harder than normal. She looked as though she was suffering from a high fever. Beato, what's wrong? Are you okay? What do you mean, okay? You sure do say some strange things. You're fighting to kill that girl. We've rewound the 5th game for your benefit, but we're at it now. Ben's cornered me pretty good and she's about to break through the witch illusion. That girl exists and have been almost completely denied. It's only natural that she's suffering. Even just now, you smashed the witch illusion by saying there was no way Kinzo existed. This is the proof that your attack reached Beato. This agony of hers. I tried to at least wipe away the sweat on Beato's forehead with a handkerchief. It's true, I promised Beato that I'd let her die, but that was supposed to be peaceful. I wasn't planning to make her suffer first. My goal isn't to make the sleeping Beato suffer like this before killing her. And if the complicated feelings inside me were plain as day to them, as if the complicated feelings inside me were plain as day to them, the two witches grinned together. Teoricamente sì, Andrew. Teoricamente sì. I'm pretty sure. 99%. Sicuramente ne riparleremo più avanti. Damn it. Damn it, Aneki. Dad overheard because you kept yelling about the inheritance. It isn't my fault. How was I supposed to know? He just happened to be in the corridor and heard. It was an unlucky coincidence. But you two give it a rest. Just call it our bad luck this time and give it up. If you leave a man alone, his mood will pop right back to normal. Hopefully Father's feelings weren't hurt so much that he writes up some strange will. Writes up. The relatives sighed deeply and fell into silence. Hey, Maria, stop jumping around. What if Ange-chan trips over? Sorry to have kept you waiting. The boat is ready. Alright, let's go. Won't get anywhere by complaining now. We eagerly wait your return to this island. E qua se ne vanno, quindi da qui abbiamo capito che questa volta li ha fregati. Natsu was sitting on a bench in the rose garden, looking completely worn out. However, when she noticed that Kanon and Kumasawa were coming back, she immediately sat up straight, regaining the dignity of a head's wife.
船は出ましたか？
Did the boat leave?
はい。
Yes,
たった今。
it's departed just a minute ago.
そうでしたか。
I see.
見送りご苦労
Good
でした。
job seeing them off.
主人はどうしてますか？
What is my husband doing?
先ほど
He returned to his room a short while ago.
お休みになられ
He
る
is
とのこと
resting.
です。
Since the previous day, Kraus had been almost overwhelmed by anxiety over the thought that Kinzo's death might be discovered. When the family conference ended, his weariness must have suddenly gotten a hold of him. However, the way he had refused to let even a sliver of his true intentions slip out, and the manner in which he had managed to act as though everything was normal, showed that Kraus' nerve was nothing to sneeze at.
どうでしたか？
How was
彼
it?
らはお父様のことを
Did they seem to notice
不審な手
anything
はおりませんでし
suspicious
た
about father?
いいえ。
No.
親方様に
Eva-sama in
遺産
particular
分
was
配の
raising
話
quite the
を立ち
racket
に
about the
された
master overhearing
エ
her
ヴァ
talking
様
about the
などは
inheritance,
それは
right?
大騒ぎでしたとも。慌て
Wasn't
て
her panicking just
傑作
priceless?
でしたね。
はい。
Yes,
大層取り乱し
she
たおいでで
was
した
quite shaken up.
しかし
Kumasawa,
Kumasawa
you
もな
really
かなかの演技力です。
are quite the
あ
actress.
の廊下での
All
慌てっ
that
ぷりは
panic in the
本
corridor
当
made
に
it
そ
seem
こに
like
お父
father
様がいらっし
really
ゃったかの
was
ようで
there.
したよ。熊沢さんは
Kumasawa-san
そういう
is
のが大
quite
変お上手
talented
です
at
から
that sort of thing.
あら。
Oh, come
や
on,
だ
I
やだ
don't
褒
deserve
めす
such
ぎです
praise.
よ。
熊沢の病欠の
I
電
will
話は
make,
簡
I
単
will
に
have
信
it.
じないよう
I will have to
よく
make it
現地に
very
言っておか
clear
な
to
くてはなり
Genji
ませんね。
not to believe you easily when you called in sick.
それは
Oh,
手厳
that's
しゅう
just
ございま
that's
す
just
よ。
too harsh,
奥様
madam.
本当にご苦労で
You
した
really did a good job.
お前たちと現
As
地とシャノン
promised,
には
both of you,
約
as
束
well
通
as
り
Genji and
過去
Shannon,
1ヶ月分
will
の
be
休暇の買い
reimbursed
上
for
げ
the
と
time you've
新たに
off
5日の
you've
有給を与え
sacrificed over the
ます
past month and will receive 5 days of additional pay.
秘密の手当で
This
す
bonus is a
取
secret.
得に際しては
Speak with
現地
Genji
と
when you
相談し
collect your pay to
他の使用
ensure
人
that
た
the
ちに
other
手取られない
servants
ように
don't find out.
ええ
Don't you
心得
worry.
てお
We
りますと
understand.
も。ね
Don't
え。
we?
熊沢さん
Kumasawa-san,
声が大きいです
your voice is too loud.
い
Oh,
けないいけ
how
ない。
very careless of me.
そうですね
Yes, we should be
こ
careful.
の話はこれまでと
Let's
し
leave
ま
it
す
at that for the time being.
各自
All
通
of
常
you,
のお
please
勤めに戻
return
る
to
よう
your regular duties.
そうそう
Oh,
Goda
that's
に
right. I
特
heard
別に
Goda
お茶の
prepared
用意
some
をさせました
specialty.
いただくように
Tell him to serve it. Sì, Goda lo lasciano in cucina, lui non sa niente. Stanno prendendo per il culo anche lui. Natsui let them know that she wanted to be left alone for a while, so that she could drink some black tea in the rose garden. The black tea, carried all the way to the bench, was the Sri Lanka tea, Dimbula, that she had promised Beato, along with patties. Tra l'altro, cosa sono patties? Io mi sono immaginato che siano tipo dei biscotti di qualche tipo. Biscotti di solito. And sitting on either side of it, the wife of the head and her witch could be seen, both of them staring at it curiously.
これがパティ
So
スで
this
す
is
か
patties.
私はてっ
I
きり
just assume it was
焼き菓子のようなも
some
のだ
kind
と
of
ばかり
baked sweet. Io come Natsui. Natsui hadn't thought for a moment that it would have a curry-like spicy flavor and had started coughing after putting it in her mouth. To describe it in Japanese terms, it was like aged gyoza stuffed with mashed curry-flavored potatoes. As a savory snack, it would probably be popular with the kids. However, it was something of a shock to Natsui, who expected that a treat to go with tea would be something sweet.
知らんのか
Didn't you
ディ
know?
ンブラといえ
You
ばこれだ
cannot
ぞ
have dimbula without this.
紅茶ならクッキー
Wait, another black tea? It would be cookies.
ああチョ
Oh,
コで
but
も良いな
chocolate is good too.
日本茶なら羊羹
With
だが
Japanese tea,
塩
sweet
昆布で
bean
も
jelly is a tradition, although salted kombu also
中
works.
国茶なら
With
小籠
Chinese tea, you have xiaolongbao.
わらわは月餅も好きだ。
Though I like mooncakes as well.
驚きました。
I'm surprised. You know a lot about culture, don't you?
まあ、伊
Well,
達
I
に
haven't
千年は
been
生き
living
て
a
おらん。
thousand years for nothing.
世界の名
I
茶
have
は一通り
sampled all
試
the
した。
finest teas from all around the world.
お茶の世界旅行
Perhaps you can
と
call
い
me
った
a
とこ
tea
ろか。
traveler.
確かに
That does seem like it would be a wonderful way to travel the world.
このような紅茶の楽しみ方もあると。
Before today, I never knew that one could enjoy tea like this.
これは貴重な体
I
験
will
です。
treasure this experience.
わらわは六軒島よ
I
り出ら
cannot
れない。
leave
これ
Rokenjima.
くらいしか
This is the
旅
only
をする
way
こ
I
とは
can
できぬで
travel.
は。そなたはどう
What
か。
about you?
富豪の妻
I'm
らし
sure you've traveled the
世界を
world in
優雅に
luxury as the
旅してき
wife
たの
of a
であろう。
rich man should.
ジェシカが生まれる前は、主人はいろいろな国に私を連れて行ってくれました。
Gente, mi state facendo spaccare stasera. Before Jessica was born, my husband took me to many
嫁ぐまで
countries.
は一度も海外
Before
旅行をしたこ
marrying,
と
I
がなか
never
ったの
once
で、
traveled overseas, so each time was a fresh and new experience.
そなたも
Sounds like you were also born in a very restrictive household.
厳格でしたが、
It was
素晴ら
strict,
しい
but
教
they
育を
gave me a
施してくれま
wonderful
したよ。
upbringing.
それを窮屈
It
と呼
would
んで
be
は、
rude to my
お
father
父
and
様とお
mother
母
to
様
call
に
that
失礼です
restrictive.
雄弁に窮
That
屈であ
tells
る
me,
と語ってお
that
るわ。
tells me eloquently that it was. Kraus might have pitied Natsui, or he might have wanted to take her away from the restrictive Ushiromiya family for a bit and let her rest. Or he might simply have wanted to take his wife around countries he knew well and showed off everything he knew.
主人は、お
Unlike
父様と違
father,
って
my husband
ア
likes
ジアの
countries
国
in
が好きで
Asia.
香港、
Hong Kong,
台湾、
Taiwan,
韓
Korea,
国にタイ、
Thailand.
マレーシアも行きましたっけ？
I think we also went to Malaysia.
クラウスめ。
Ah, Kraus.
金蔵の西
Was he
洋
trying to
革命に
rebel
反抗した
against
つもりだ。
Kingzo's Western obsession?
しかしアジア
But
は
Asia is good
日
too.
本人は丸ご
The
と西
Japanese
洋
are
かぶれだから
strongly influenced by the West.
外国といえば
When they think
西
of
洋しか
foreign
想像せん。
countries, only Western ones come to
西があれば
mind.
東も
But
あ
the
ろう。
East exists as well.
私も西
I
洋の知
myself
識は
knew
そ
a
こそこ
few
にありま
things
したが
about the West, but I
東洋
knew
の知識
very
はあまり
little
なかっ
about
た
the
もので、
Orient.
旅先でいろいろと主
I
人に
seem
か
to
らかわ
recall
れま
my
した。
husband making fun of me now and then during our travels, as Natsui grumbled that he had been all that they had all as Natsui grumbled that they had all been very tiring trips. Beato secretly peeked into her heart. Oh,
いいか
aspetta. Fammi vedere un secondo. Come si fa? Clear si fa? Sì. Natsui giovincella prima che si sposa! La Natsui pre... MILF arc, non so come posso dire. Natsui 25enne, non lo so. E il culo di Kraus. Natsui pre-errore. Now
これ
listen.
は貧労という
This is called an areca nut.
ここでは庶民的
It
な
is a
嗜好品
popular...
だ
aspetta, non ha la voce così profonda perché anche lui è più giovane, è vero, è vero. It's a popular luxury food item around here. It looked like a small round gourd-like nut that had been split open with a slice of cucumber wedged in it. At a glance, it looked as though it would probably taste like pickles.
なるほど。
I see.
これをかじればよいの
So
です。
I just bite it here? As she tried to bite the other one her husband was holding, he suddenly moved it away. It felt kind of embarrassing, like she was a fish who took the bait.
ああ待て
Ah, wait up.
貧労には食べ
You
方
have to eat it in a certain way.
確かにかじ
Yes,
るのは
you are supposed to bite
か
it.
じる
Bite
も
it.
ぐもぐと
Chew
噛む
it.
しかし
But
食べては
don't
ならない
eat it.
え、
Huh?
かじって噛むの
Even
に
though you bite
食べてはなら
and
ないの
chew
で
it,
すか？
you don't eat it?
うんか
Yes.
じって噛む
Bite and chew.
食べてはならん
Don't eat it.
そして汁も飲んでは
And don't drink the juice.
胃を痛める
It'll make your stomach hurt.
わかりません。
Don't
どう
understand.
してそんなものを食べな
Why
ければ
would
な
you
らない
eat
のですか。
something like that?
ガムのようなものと思え
Think of it as something like a gum.
噛んで味を楽し
Chew
む
it and enjoy the
噛んだ
flavor.
くずと汁
Spit
は
the juice and the
こうして
scraps you've
紙コッ
chewed
プに
off into a
吐き出す
paper cup, like this.
あなた、
Dear,
口の中が真っ赤ですよ。
the inside of your mouth is bright
拭い
red.
て拭いて。
Wipe it off, wipe it off. The handkerchief she had wiped Kraus' mouth with, of a favorite of hers, also had bright red marks on it now. Something that's poisonous if eaten or drunk, and it makes your inside of your mouth so bright red. And on top of that, having to spit something out after you've put it in your mouth. How indecent! Thinking this, Natsu firmly refused what Kraus was offering her.
嫌です嫌です。
Oh no, no, thank you, but no.
こういうのは異文化
This
体
is a
験だろ
cross-cultural experience.
ここ
Cross-cultural
で
experience.
しかできない
What's
体
the
験をしなけ
point
れば
of traveling
旅行の意
if
味
we
がない
don't do things that can be be done here? Klaus kept chewing, ignoring the fact that even his lips were being colored bright
こい
red.
つは親父殿も好きね
Father likes these too.
昔は取り寄せたの
He
か
must have ordered
屋敷の
some
テラ
long
スで
ago
も
because he
大
used
沼
to
や
chew
っていた
away
んだ
at them on the mansion terrace.
夏日が来てからはや
Although
めたよ
he seems to have stopped ever since you came here.
ほら
Come
君
on.
が私よりも
Father,
尊
the
敬する
person you
親
respect
父殿
even
の
more
愛を
than
してい
me
たんだぞ
chew this all the
ほ
time.
らほら
Come on, come on, don't hold back. Try
いや
it.
いや、やめてやめて、あなた。
Guarda, gli ha fatto tipo: guarda che se non lo fai, se non fai bravo chiamo Babbo Natale, eh. Ha detto: guarda che li mangiava anche papà, quindi se tu non li mangi prende 4.
When he was traveling the world, Kraus had the innocence of a child. He wouldn't even conceal his jealousy of the respect Natsui normally gave Kinzo. Just being able to see that side of her husband made traveling all the way to another country worthwhile. Kraus kept on urging her to bite it, but Natsui, undaunted, ran from place to place and finally yelled at him that he was being too pushy. Kraus was miffed for most of the bus ride. What a child to let something like this get him down, Natsui thought, astounded. Then a native tour guide on the bus took out one of those areca nuts and started explaining about it. He talked about how it had been a beloved luxury item in this part since ancient times, similar to tobacco, and about how its popularity was declining because young people were starting to take a dislike to it, just like Natsui, and about how it was treated as a good luck charm in this area and was known as a symbol for couples. She looked at her husband's face. He turned away abruptly, but it looked like his cheeks had gotten a little red.
んで
And then
夫の肩に身
you
を委ね
learn of your
手なんか
husband.
握っちゃったりしたわけか
And then you lean on your husband and held his hand, I'll bet.
なんだ
What the
その
heck?
ドラ
You and your
結
husband
構
share a
純愛では
pretty
ない
pure
か
love, don't you?
燃え上がっちゃったであろう
Didn't you get all fired up?
その晩
You
と
know,
か
like that night. Red-faced and avoiding Beato's eyes, Natsui tried to hide her embarrassment by stuffing her patties whole into her mouth, chewing with cheeks puffed out like a blowfish. Beato said that there was nothing better than this to go with tea and nodded several times, a broad smile on her face.
もっとも
Of
それも
course,
新婚の頃の
that
話です。
was when we were newlyweds.
今は六軒
Right
島を出
now, I
ることも
cannot
でき
even
る
leave
カ
Rokkenjima.
ゴの鳥ですよ。
I'm a bird in a cage.
それを言うなら
Well,
わら
it's
わも
the same for me.
死ねども死
I
ね
have
ども
died more than
六軒
once
島
and
よりは
still
逃
I
げられ
can't
ぬ
escape
カ
Rokkenjima.
ゴの鳥は
I'm a bird in a
わらわも
cage just
同
like
じだ
you are.
あなたのことは知りませ
I
んし
don't know much about
詮
you,
索
but
もしませ
I
ん
won't pry.
しかし
However, I can imagine that the circumstances you're under are not ones I can make light of.
老名主を気取るつも
I
りも
have
ない
no desire, like I'm the chief prisoner
同じ
here.
カゴの鳥同
Let's be
士
friendly as
せいぜい仲
fellow
良くしよう
bird
ぜ
in this cage.
わらわはそなたを気に入った
I've
ぜ
taken a liking to
そう
you.
ですかあ
Really?
りがとう
Thank you.
この度の親族
The
会議における
instructions and orders you gave the servant for this family conference were superb.
金蔵が何
You
と
thought of
どこに
everything from behind,
何を
from where
して何を
Kinzo
残
would
して
be, and when and what he did and what he left
それらを
behind.
見事
And
に
you put it
共有させ
all together
矛盾なく
splendidly,
組み合
without
わ
any contradictions.
それらの緻密な
That
計画書
detailed
は
written plan
高
of
度な魔
yours
法陣の
had the
それと
same
同じ
beauty
美し
as
さ
a
が
high-level magic circle. To make it look like Kinzo actually existed and was living life on his own way, she had written his schedule for the day down to the finest detail and made the servant follow it to the letter. Who did he meet? When and where did he meet them? And what did he leave with them? What was he doing? And when and where was he doing it? And what did he change? As a result, even though the relatives hadn't seen Kinzo once, they never suspected in the slightest that he hadn't been there. Even the rest truly believed that their conversation about the inheritance had been overheard by Kinzo as he happened to walk along the hall, and that it had sent him into a rage. Everything had gone just as Natsu's plan had predicted, down to the finest detail. And the coordination between the two of them and the servants had also been spectacularly intricate.
万一にも知られるわけにはい
We
かぬ秘
couldn't
密です
afford to
の
have this secret found out any other
念入り
circumstances.
に策を練りまし
That's
た
why I made such a thorough plan.
その緻密さと意
Your
志は
willpower
絶
and
対
attention
の
to
成功
detail
を
summons success with
どうや
certainty.
らそなたは
As a witch, it
魔女
seems
として
you're in Lady
ダ
Lambda
ムダデル
Delta's
タ教
camp.
の一派らしいなそれを魔法と自覚したならばいつ
At
で
your
も魔女
current
見習い
level,
を名
as
乗れ
soon
る
as you
レベルだ
become self-aware of that as magic, you'll be worthy of calling yourself a witch apprentice.
それを魔法と呼ぶなら
If you call something like that magic, then what would make Kumasawa the witch of feigned then that would make Kumasawa the witch of feigned illnesses.
忙しい日に限って
She only calls us to
腰痛
say
で
she's
安いと
taking the
連絡があり
day
ます
off because of her bad back on the busy
毎
days.
年親
Like
族会議
every
の日に
year's
はいつ
family
もです
conference.
ああ
Oh
熊沢は
no,
違う
Kumasawa
違
is
う
completely
もっ
different.
ともっと
She's a witch of a
高位の魔
much,
女に
much higher level.
正体知ったら
If you
驚
knew
くぞ
who she really was, it'd shock you. Fammi vedere un secondo cosa avete scritto. Allora, questo l'avevo letto. Ok. Watching these two have their pleasant chat was another pair with the... Watching these two have the... Ah, ok, adesso ho capito cosa non capivo il senso della frase. Watching these two have their pleasant chat was another pair with steam rising from their black tea. However, this second pair was in a world that the first couldn't see, where golden roses bloomed.
ロノウェが気を利かせて
Ronowe was kind enough to make us some of that
銀
Dimbula
ブラと
tea
かいう
too. It felt as though Beato muttered something. For the first time, it felt as though she had been able to communicate something. Surely she had taken an interest in the black tea and felt like drinking it. Thinking this, the butler took Beato's cup and her hand and made her grip the cup. Beato's eyes trembled sadly and her fingers shook. almost as though she couldn't even move her fingers as she wanted to, and was mourning the fact that she could no longer even enjoy the tea she had once loved without assistance. That was how she looked. So Butler rested his hand on Beato's, softly took hold of the teacup and lifted it to her lips. Then, though it was only a single mouthful, Beato sipped. The days in which they have been in a killing fest with red swords and blue wedges already seemed like the distant past. Now, not only was Beato unable to do that, it was even difficult for her to make her body do as she pleased. Even just drinking a mouthful of black tea like this was so hard.
どうだ
How is it
バラの匂いが
that rose
素敵な
aroma
紅茶
makes
だ
for
よ
a
な
great black tea?
口に合うか
Do you like it? Of course, Beato didn't respond.
どうしちまったんだ
Happened to you.
これも
This is
また
another
作戦なんだろう
strategy,
な
right?
落ち込んでるふりを
You're
して
pretending to be in a slum,
後でバーッと
be in a
驚
slum
かそう
so
って作
you
戦
can
なんだろう
shock
な
me later.
それが狙いなら
That's what you're
もう
after.
二度
The
と同じ
same
手に
trick
は乗
won't
らねえ
work
から
again, so
いい加減にし
give
ろ
it a rest.
お前がそんなざまじ
If
ゃ
you keep acting like that,
こっちも調子
even
が
I'll
狂う
start
んだ
to
よ
feel out of whack.
なあ
Hey,
そろそろ引っかか
isn't
っ
it
たら
about
バカ
time
って
you start laughing
バカ笑い
loudly,
してくれよ
saying "cut you dumbass" or something?
どんなネタも
Any kind
あま
of
り引っ張り
joke
すぎると
stops
笑
being
えなくな
funny
る
if
ぞ
you use it too much,
二番煎じ
especially if it's a rehash.
笑ってくれ
Laugh.
あそこで
Just like you're cackling over there as you drink with Aunt Natsui. Can't you at least grin?
二度とないわ。
Never
その
again.
子が笑うことは
This child
No,
will
neither.
never laugh again. Those sudden words were exceedingly cruel.
どうして二度となん
How
て
can
言え
you
ない
say that for sure?
ベアトの笑う権利を
Quit
勝手に
trying
奪
to
うな
steal away Beato's right to laugh.
あら、
Oh.
赤で言った方
Should
が
I
いい。
say it in red then? I shook my head furiously. Then, with an expression that didn't reveal her thoughts in the slightest, Berncastel spoke while looking at Beato's face. And I didn't understand the word she used in the slightest.
おめでとう。
Congratulations.
何がだ
For what?
ベアトがそのざまなの
Beato
は
is like this
あ
as
な
a
たが勝
result
ったか
of
ら
your
こその結
victory.
果だからよ。
What are you
何を
talking
言ってやがる
about?
あなたは
You
かつて
said
のゲー
something
ムで言った
interesting in the previous
これは
game. You said that this would be the eternal torture where you both tormented each
そう
other.
よ。
That was
ベア
right.
トにとって
It
も
was
拷問だ。
torture for Beato as
そ
well.
して、
And you
その拷
won
問
that
ゲーム
torture game.
だから、
That's why
ベアトに
Beato's soul
魂を
was
殺
killed,
す
and why she
人
became
形
a
当然の
doll-like
屍に
corpse.
なり果てた。
俺がペアト
Are you saying that I did this to Beato?
勝敗は
The battle
ど
ends
ちら
when
か
one of you
一方が
loses
勝
the
とうと
will
する
to
意志を
try
く
and
じけた時
win.
に決まる。あなたとベアト
As
の
far as the
戦いは
battle between you and Beato
すで
goes,
に
the
前回
conclusion
決着
was
がついていた
already reached last time.
まあ、あな
Well,
たに
it
とって
probably
は
happened without you
預か
noticing
り
though.
知れぬうちに
なら
In that case,
俺の
why
勝利
hasn't
な
the
のにど
game
うしてゲ
ended
ームが
when
終
I've
わらない
already won?
どうしてこのゲームが
Why
ま
is
だ
the
続い
game
てい
still
る
continuing?
その子の足
The
首につい
shackle
てる
attached to the
足
girl's ankle.
ラムダが施したルール
That's a rule Lambda made. Even if Beatrice tries to yield or get discouraged or gives up, she isn't capable of stepping down from the game. That's the rule, or maybe it's a curse.
かつて
Some time ago, when it looked like you were going to give in,
私はあなた
I
をサ
gave
ポ
you
ート
my
した。あ
support.
なたには近くで
Though
き
you
ないだろう
probably
か
couldn't perceive it, I
有
assisted you
利
by
な
making
展開と
sure
ヒント
that
が
you
与え
would
られる
receive
のに
hints and
私は
things
あなた
would
の
go
助
your
力
way.
だから今
That's why
あ
you're
なた
able
が
to
こ
be
こに
here
こうしてい
now.
られるのよ。覚えてる
Do you remember
私
how I
に
helped
助け
you?
られたこと
Bercastel stared at me. It's true, I wasn't aware of it, but maybe it was true that she helped me. In the same way, Lambda is supporting Beato, and this time it's Beato who is on the verge of giving in. So, to make sure that she doesn't, this time it's Lambda who is been giving her support. That's what that shackle is. By refusing to let her resign, she saved Beato within the game. How is this saving her? The game was made with only two ways for it to end. Either one side accepts defeats and resigns, or one side wins the games with a checkmate. Beato was about to collide with the first way. That's why Lambda crushed that chance and managed to just barely avoid her losing. That's a wonderful bit of support within the game. In that case, the only way left for this game to end is for me to win. At the very least, until I do win, that witch called Lambda Delta could probably try and buy time for Beato's condition to turn back around, but that would just prolong Beato's suffering even more. Neither of us want that. Both Beato and I fought with all we had trying to win. It was because we were both giving it everything we could muster that game repeated several times to begin with. And that was also why, that one time, we confronted each other head-on with all of our strength, and Beato admitted defeat. She said she wanted me to end this game and entrusted everything to me. So, Van Castle's words were the truth. She said it was my fault that Beato had become a living corpse. That was true, but it was something that both of us wanted. Our match had already been resolved. Our match has already been resolved. Even so, the game won't end. That's why Beato put her trust in me. She told me to win quickly and end this game. Now that the game had been resolved, for it to continue any further would be torture without end for Beato, nothing more than a nightmare. I had to give her a perfect checkmate, end this game in the truest sense, and give Beato a peaceful sleep. For that reason, I'll keep fighting. But by continuing the game, Beato's eternal torture will continue. It felt as though I could only let her sleep peacefully by slowly strangling her to death. I'm starting to feel like the truth doesn't even matter anymore. Who gives a crap about the game if Beato is satisfied? Beato resigned. I'll ignore the truth of the witch illusion and return home with my family. What's wrong with that? Oh, if only Lambda Delta hadn't placed the curse of that shackle on her, this battle would be over already. That's why I find it detestable. This game where I have to torment Beato even more to end it, it's detestable. What's this? Beato has started to look like she's in pain every time you get closer to the truth. So, you're suddenly going easy on her? Then, just as you go easy on her, then just go as easy on her as you can. And why don't you just let Beato win while you're at it? Then your little sister can end a lonely, tragic future force of on her endlessly. That's not how it is. That's right, I have to return for Enge's sake as well. I know this isn't the time to start feeling compassion for Beato. In that case, make sure you kill her. Kill this witch without fail. Even though Beato was right there, Bercastel spoke without holding back. Your goal is to kill this woman. In the last game, you said it at Beato's request. You said, I will kill you. Yeah, that may be true, but that doesn't give you a right to comment on it. Did you know, when you tear one of your fingernails out, it's better to do it in one go, pulling it like you do, gently, timidly, twisting and slowly, hurts much, much more.
あなたのしてることの
What
方
you're
が
doing
よ
sounds
っぽ
more
ど
like
拷問だと
torture
思
to
う
me.
けど慈悲があるなら
If you have any compassion,
殺しなさい。
kill her in one blow.
それが殺すとい
That's
う
how
こと
killing works.
余計なお世話
That's none of your
俺がこいつ
business.
にどういう
I'm the
動画を
one
出す
to
か
decide how
俺
to
が決めること
perform my last
お
rites.
前も
You and
あ
that
のラム
Lambda
ダデルタ
Delta
という魔
witch
女
had
も
nothing
関
to
係
do
ない
with this.
俺が
I will kill her.
他の誰にも
I won't let anyone else do it.
その意志に変わ
As
りがない
long
な
as you
ら
don't lose that willpower.
私はあなた
I'm
にかけて
betting
る
on
の
you.
だからいい
Alright?
決して忘れないこと
Make sure you don't forget.
このゲームに決着を
Unless
つけない
this game is resolved,
あなたが
you
解放され
will
ることを
never be
決して
released.
あなたにだ
You won't be allowed
こ
to
のゲーム
abandon
を
this
放棄
game
すること
either.
は
I get it.
ラムダの狙いは
I know what Lambda is after. She wants to make you lose your will to fight, just like Beato.
二人とも
To make you a pair of living dolls and keep this world in perpetual equilibrium.
そんなの嫌
You
でしょ
don't want that, don't you?
私も困るわ
I wouldn't like it either.
お前の都合など知ったこと
Why
ない
should I care about what you want?
だが
Still,
俺は
I
ゲ
won't
ームを
throw
捨てな
this
い
game away.
ベアトとの戦
I
いの
won't
責任
abandon the responsibility of fighting with Beato.
目的が同じで嬉しいわ
I'm glad our goals are the same. So, this means you'll be able to kill this child without any hesitation, right?
そうだ
That's right. I have no way of knowing whether those words ease their pain or hurt her, but because of this dull tingling in my chest, I believe that she must have been hurt. I have no way of knowing what the silent Beato feels. If I believe she's been hurt, is that any different from her being hurt? If I hadn't thought that I hurt her, I would have been able to get by without hurting anyone. Aspetta. And if I hadn't thought I hurt her, would I... And if I hadn't thought I hurt her, would I been... If I believe she's been hurt, is that any different from her being hurt? And if I hadn't thought I hurt her, would I have been able to get by without hurting anyone? Sti condizionali.
で
So,
あそこで夏日と
about
お茶を
that
飲んでる
Beato who's
ベアト
drinking
だ
tea over there with
大丈
Natsu.
夫よ
You can handle that, right?
あ
Yeah,
あ大丈
no problem.
金蔵の時と同じ
It's the same as it was with Kinzo.
Beatrice
Beatrice, come l'ho detto. Beatrice doesn't exist. This is a false witch illusion that Natsui created from her belief that she thought up a brilliant plan to overcome hardship by borrowing the witch's power.
二人が並んでお
The
茶を飲ん
only
でる
reason it looked like the two of them are
ゲー
drinking
ム
tea
マスターで
is because Lambda Delta, who is the game master and the one who's telling the story, is interpreting it that way.
夏日に対し
If you stare without a fragment of love for Natsui, you won't see
そんな
illusions
幻想が
like
見え
that.
たりはしないだから私の
That's why, with my
夏
eyes,
日が一人
all I
ぼ
can
っち
see is
で黙々と
Natsui all
紅茶を飲
alone,
んでるようにしか
drinking
見え
her
ない
tea in silence. Without love, it cannot be seen. Because love is lacking, it cannot be seen.
あれは夏日が見せている妄想
That's a fantasy that Natsu is
あ
showing
そこ
us.
にベアトリーチェ
Beatrice
は
doesn't
存在し
exist there. Beato mumbled softly. It was a small voice that made it sound like she was in pain. The thorn of Berncastle's truth had stabbed her into the chest.
ああ
Yeah,
そうだ
that's probably
お
true.
前の推理は
I
正
think
しい
your
と
theory is right,
だ
but
が
don't
それを
say
ベア
that
ト
in
の
front
前
of
で口に
Beato.
するな
どこで口
It
にして
doesn't
も
matter
同じ
where I say
こ
it.
こはベアトの世
This
界なん
is
だ
Beato's world.
あと
Also,
こいつを擁護
it's
するわ
not
けじゃ
like
ね
I'm
えが
protecting Beato,
夏日おばさんが
but there is a possibility that Aunt Natsu really is drinking tea with some unknown person X
こう
calling
してお茶を飲ん
themselves
でる可能性
Beatrice.
だってあるんだぜこの光景は
This
1年前
scene
の
takes place a year before
こ
everything.
の日の島の
The
人
number
数
of
が
people on this island on this day has never been shown with the red truth.
そうね
Sure,
この日のロッケン
even
島
Lambda
の
hasn't
人数
said
につい
anything
て
in
は
red about the number of
Lambda も
people
後
on
では語って
Rokkenjima
な
on
い
this day.
なら
In that
夏
case,
日おばさんが
it's possible to
本
claim
当に
that Aunt
ベアトリーチェ
Natsu
と名乗
really
る
did,
女と
did,
お茶を飲
did
んだと
drink
主
tea
張す
with
る
a
ことも
woman
できる
calling
んだ
herself
俺
Beatrice.
にお前の説を
Just
否
like
定
I
でき
can
ない
deny your theory,
お
you
前だ
can
って
deny
俺
mine.
の説を否定できないだか
That means you can't say for sure whether the Beato there is an illusion or not.
あ
Oh,
猫
the
箱
cat
見る
box
そ
theory.
れ
It might have
Beato
worked on
が通用し
Beato,
たかも
but
しれ
it
ない
won't work on me.
どうして
Why?
だって夏日
After
は
all,
そこで
Natsu is
一人ぼっちで
drinking
紅
tea
茶を
all
飲んで
by
るんだもの
herself right there. There was a violent sound of glass breaking, and the Beato joking about Natsu's newlywed years and laughing happily was erased. A lonely wind blew, and the one person who remained on the bench drinking tea with a tired expression was Aunt Natsui all alone. Beato groaned. I could see clearly that she was in anguish. Another witch illusion had been smashed, calling Beato towards death. In short, this is what the battle to let Beato rest in peace is all about. A second ago, Van Castle likened our fight to the torture of tearing fingernails out. If I had to tear them out anyway, then my last bit of compassion towards Beato should be to minimize the pain. In other words, even if I want to minimize the pain, I still have to cause it. I have to accept that look of anguish on her face. At the same time, this made me realize what a merciless thing the red truth is. Right now in this rose garden, there is no one except Aunt Natsui. In other words, there are no observers except for Aunt Natsui. So if that lone observer were to say that she had some tea with Beato, no one should be able to refute that. If no one can refuse it, doesn't that mean it's the truth? Aunt Natsui is enjoying the roses and drinking tea together with Beato. How could anyone have the right to mercilessly trample that pleasant moment?
赤き真
The
実
red truth is a lot like a blade.
魔女と戦う上で
In a battle with a witch,
時に
it's
推
a
理
blade that sometimes tears your theories apart and sometimes serves as a weapon you can fight back with.
知ってるわよ
I know.
それがない
So what?
二дарに使うな
Don't use it without reason.
刃物は
A blade is a tool if you use it as intended, but it's nothing more than a murderous weapon if you use it out of malice. It was true that Aunt Natsui hadn't really been drinking tea with a witch. However, saying that with the red truth probably has nothing to do with our game. Our game is the tale of October 1986. The 2 days of the crime give us more than enough time to injure each other with our red and blue blades glistening.
これは魔女幻
This
想じゃ
isn't
ない
about the witch illusions. It's about Aunt Natsui's privacy.
それを暴く権
How
利だ
could anyone have the right to expose that?
この場に魔女が
Do
実
you
在
want
し
to
て
acknowledge that the witch actually existed here and drank tea with
あ
Natsui?
なた
Weren't you
魔女を
trying to
否定するんじゃ
deny
な
the
かったの？
existence of witches?
1986
Yes,
年
during the game of the 2-day period from October 4th to October 5th, 1986. But I have no desire to question whether or not witches
俺は魔女
exist
の存在を
outside
問う
that
つもり
game
はねえ
board.
ぜそもそも
In the first place, it's impossible to deny the existence of witches because of the devil's proof.
そして
And,
このゲームの
according
ルー
to
ルに
the
従い
rules of this game,
赤でそれを語るの
saying
も
something like that in red is forbidden move that leads to a stalemate.
赤き真実で
You
さえ
can't deny the existence of witches even with the red truth.
確かに
True.
まさかあなたに
I never thought I heard you talk about witches existing.
さすがラム
Not bad,
バ
Lambda.
トラーを
You've done a good job of getting Butler stuck between his human culprit theory and the thought that it doesn't matter whether witches exist or not.
人間の心を
She
操る
really
のに
excels at controlling a human's heart.
私ももっと
Looks like I'd better start helping you out even more.
お前らなど知った
I
ことじゃ
couldn't
ない
care less about you
消え
two.
ろ
Disappear.
俺は俺と
The
ベア
game
と
is between me and
お
Beato.
前たちに私は
We are gonna keep this game to ourselves.
嫌よ
No way.
何
What?
だって
After all,
私もこの
I'm
ゲーム
enjoying this game too. When Castle disappeared, leaving only that unpleasant laugh behind. After that, all that remained was Natsui, sipping tea alone, Beato, her hand still on the teacup as she stared blankly at the surface of the liquid, and me,
ベルンカステルに
Castle,
ラ
Lambda
ムダデル
Delta.
タワルギリアは
Virgilia called them your friends, but you really should have chosen your friends more carefully.
いやむし
Or
ろ
wait,
昭和の
maybe
終わり
they
は
actually make a good match with an ill-natured person like you. Beato didn't answer. Butler took Beato's hand, made her hold the cup again, and brought it to her lips. Beato made a quiet sound in her throat and drank just one more mouthful. Then Natsui's lonely tea time ended. Her truth, which was only hers and observed by no one else's, had been defiled. In Natsui's world, that tea party, which had been peaceful despite her annoyance at Beato for making fun of her too much, must have come to an end, and the two of them probably went their separate ways. However, in Natsui's exposed truth, she was all alone. Natsui trapesided away. On the bench, only a single person's cup remained. Bevo. After dashing to her bedroom, Jessica answered the phone call that had been transferred there.
もしもし
Hello?
お待たせ
Sorry to keep you waiting.
バトラー
Butler.
6年も落とさ
What
た
you
らしい
think
わ
you're
どういう
doing not
つもりだ
contacting us for 6 years?
久しぶりだな
How's it going?
お
Oh,
そうな
really?
のか知るかよ
How the
そん
hell
な
would
の
I know?
うぜえぜ
Cram it, you jackass.
じゃあ
So, you'll be coming to this year's family conference?
6年ぶ
It's
りだ
been
な
6 years. Il titolo sembra interessante, Andrew. Five businessmen in expensive suits were visiting in the parlor, giving Kraus and Natsui a progress report on their business. Spread out on the table were the blueprints and designs for a building, as well as documents related to expenditures and the like, so packed that even a teacup would have gotten in the way. Officially, they were here to give Kraus a progress report, but in actuality, Kraus had called them all the way over to Rokkenjima so that Natsui could hear from them directly. This was because Natsui needed to hear someone other than her husband explain what condition their business was in. In short, even though another family conference without Kinzo was approaching, their business had not yet earned them any money. Madonna Kraus, che coglione che sei, quanti schiaffi che ti darei. After telling the guests to wait for a short while and to make themselves at home, Kraus took Natsui out in the hall and once again summarized the situation. In short, they are saying that the business is proceeding much better than we imagined it would. This is where that personal connection between me and the governor is really starting to pay off. There is no possible way for this sketch to get away from us now. To the contrary, it's growing so big that in one go, we'll be able to regain not just the power of attorney, but everything we lost up to this point as well. Kraus spoke passionately. This made things seem all the more suspicious to Natsui, but this time, at least, she had to admit that everything really did seem to be going well. Certainly, this business Kraus boasted of had expanded in scope over the last year, and was promising an even greater payoff than had been anticipated in the beginning. Investors were gathering, jumping on the bandwagon of their own accord, and the business was rapidly gathering funds. It was a perfect example of the saying money makes money. This was probably the greatest success of Kraus' life so far. No, it probably would become his greatest success yet. That point was where Natsui's misgivings lay. True, it was certain, and as Kraus had said, they wouldn't lose this catch now. However, the fish on the line had gotten too big. We'll definitely be able to reel this fish in. There's no need to rush. It's such a success that I wish I could show it to Dad to be praised. If he were still alive. Yes, I know. However, I believe you made me a promise last year. You said you were sure you could manage something within a year. A pained look rose to Kraus' face. They certainly have hooked a fat fish that guaranteed a great success. However, it would require an appropriate amount of time to reel it in. Natsui pressed Kraus, asking if there was any way for them to make money before this year's family conference, but Kraus kept saying that he needed just one more year. Kraus planned to use this unprecedented success as a springboard to future endeavors. Because of this, he didn't want to do anything that would raise suspicions by making it seem like they were rushing to get the money. Certainly, future tends to turn against the people who take it for granted even in the slightest. There's a saying about hasty anglers. On many occasions before now, Kraus had gotten cold feet and sold businesses that would surely have brought in a profit had he just waited, and had just, in effect, given away his winning. Had in effect given away his winning picks. Natsui also knew this. She knew that guts were the thing her husband lacked most. That was why she was unable to refuse when Kraus said he wanted to prudently wait just one more year. So wonderful that things are going well. And that means it looks like I'll have to sit around here as a ghost for a little longer. You don't look too disappointed. Your life is fated to be chewed by bits by demons as soon as you leave this world. My apologies, Father. For another year you might not be granted peace. It's fine. Don't worry, Natsui. I am no longer the Ushiromiya family head. The ghost of the studio. The ghost of the study should obediently follow the current head's commands. I've taken a look at Kraus' charts, and they aren't bad at all. Even from your perspective, Father? They're pretty good even from my perspective. Everyone is confident in his victory and concentrating a significant quantity of magical power. As a result, that victory is growing even deeper, gathering more and more people and magical power, and beginning to create gold. A perfect embodiment of the classic method of alchemy. I've earned even the Golden Witch approval. Oh, if you've earned even the Golden Witch approval, that is very reassuring. Be pleased, Natsui. This business of Kraus will save the Ushiromiya family from its crisis without fail. Thank you very much. And if you would, once again, we'll have the outcome. We'll have to overcome one more family conference, won't we? Yes. I think things went well last year, but I imagine some of the relatives will find it suspicious. I think this year's conference will be a critical period. During last year's family conference, you were correct to predict that the same thing might have to happen again.
最悪のケースを
Even
想
for
定
those
する
who
のは
aren't witches,
魔女ならず
preparing
と
for the
も世渡
worst
りの
case
基本
scenario is one of the basics for getting on in this
それ
world.
で
So,
今
what
年は
will
ど
you
うぞ
do this year?
去年同様
Just like
彼の
last year,
当日は
I will
お
see
父
it
様の
that
秘密
a
を
high
知る使用人
concentration
を
of
集中的に
servants
配置し
who
ま
have
す
known Father's secret are there on the day of the
お
conference.
父様の不在を
Some
た
of
ど
the
る親族も
relatives
す
may
でにい
already
るかもしれま
suspect
せん
that father isn't
不用
around.
意な演出
A
は
careless
むしろ
act
馬
might
脚を
actually
表
put
す
us
危
in
険性も
more
あります
danger of exposure.
次たるは
It is said that too much is as bad as too little.
なれば
Then,
どうする
what will you do?
今年は昨年とは逆
Unlike
に
last year, I think we'll go with a plan that has you staying inside your study until the end.
それがよかろうな
That would be suitable.
登場は
A
単
barricade is simple and a final trump card.
どれほど屋敷が
No
毒素
matter
に
how
満
much
ちよう
the
とも
mansion is filled with the
この部
toxin,
屋を密
it
室
will be
結界に閉ざす
impossible
限
to
り
deny Kinzo's existence as long as the locked room barrier remains around this
そ
room.
れはわらわも
I
報
shall
酬
guarantee that myself. However, if you choose to make a barricade, it is inevitable that you will be surrounded.
承知しています
I know.
それでも何卒
Even so, I
もう
beg
一度だ
that
け
you
お
both,
父様とベアトリーチェの
I
力
beg that
をお
both
貸
of
し
you
くだ
lend
さ
us
い
your power just one more time.
私は
I cannot
新しき
disobey the
当初の
orders of the
命令に
new
は
head.
逆らうそして
Furthermore, a
幽霊もま
ghost
た
cannot
聖
disobey
者
the
の命
orders
令
of the
には
living.
この部屋から
If you
出
tell
る
me
な
not
と
to
いう
leave this
の
room,
だ
then
それに従
I
う
will be. Then I will obey.
ありがとうございます
Thank you so very much.
わらわは嫌だぞ
I, on the other hand, will not.
力を貸
If
せ
you
と
want
願わ
me
れ
to lend you my
願いご
power,
ときでは聞いて
I
ら
won't
れぬ
listen to a mere request.
ええ
Yes,
あなたは顧問錬金
you
術
are
師
the family alchemist,
ですから
so
貸せ
I
と願い
won't
ま
ask
す
you to help.
貸しなさいと命
I
じます
order you to
あ
help.
なたの魔法だけ
We
に
are
頼り
relying
ま
on your magic alone.
すその力で
Use that power to create an illusion of father just one more time.
ならばよ
Very well.
心得たぞ
I hear and
そな
obey.
たの勘
I
力
find your
な
dignity
かなかに
quite
心強
pleasing.
し
From the shadows of the study, Butler watched the exchange between these three.
なるほどな
I
そ
see.
して
And then
今年の
this
親
year's
族会
family
議を迎える
conference
わけ
comes around.
じい様は不機嫌だから
Grandfather
と
shut
書斎に
himself
閉じ
in
込
his
め
study because he's in a bad
誰の
mood
前
and
にも
doesn't
姿を
appear in front
現
of
さない
anyone. Natsui spoke boldly, saying that she would find a way to overcome this year's crisis and protect Yushirobiya family honor to the end. Kinzo praised her, saying that he was relieved to hear it and trusted her to succeed. Beato also praised her, saying that Natsui's dignity was even more fitting for the family head than Krause's. However, right now, the true number of people in this room was... At the same time, I thought that... No, just because I thought that, Beato grabbed her chest and moaned.
安心しろ
Don't
こ
worry,
こはゲーム版の
we are still outside the game board.
だから俺は
So I won't deny you or
そこにいるお
grandfather
前や
over
じい様
there.
を否定はしない
As Beato tried to hold back the pain deep inside her chest, I put my hand on hers. I already told Berncastel, denying the witch illusions in just the 2-day period of the 1986 family conference is enough.
お前は前回
In the last game, you said in red that grandfather is dead at the start time for all
し
games.
かし
However, you never mentioned whether grandfather was alive or dead before the start of the 4 games.
つまり
In short, even if grandfather exists in this place right now, that doesn't create any contradictions. My hand that was touching her let off a faint blue light, which seeped into her chest. That light tenderly wrapped itself around the splinters in Beato's chest.
そして
I also can't deny the
この場に
existence
いる
of
ベアトリーチ
Beatrice
の存在だっ
in
て
this place.
ゲーム版の外
The number of people on this island outside the game board, in other words, before October 4th, 1986, has not been
赤で
declared
宣
in
言され
red.
ていないんだ。だから
Therefore, there is nothing
ここに
strange
ベアトリーチェ
about
が存在して
Beatrice
も
existing here. Beato's expression softened slightly. Oh, le sono tornate le iridi negli occhi. Le pupille, non le iridi, le pupille. My blue light slowly started to melt the red splinters that had denied the witch illusion. E poi niente. Beato still wore the same sad expression, but she lifted her face and looked at me right in the eye. Even though she was silent, her eyes told me that that pain had gone away. That feeling that showed in her eyes were gratitude for taking the pain away, and appreciation, or was it surprise that I had left even a tiny bit of leeway for witches to exist. Unable to look directly at those pure eyes of hers, I automatically averted my gaze.
誤解す
Don't get the wrong idea.
魔女の存在を
I
認め
don't
たり
plan on accepting the existence of witches or
屈したつもり
surrendering.
もね。俺はお前と
I
の
just
ゲーム
want
に
to
勝つため
focus solely on that
bu분
one
だけに
time
決して
period and fight like a stoic so that I can win in this game against
ゲ
you.
ーム版の外でま
I
で
have no
嫌がらせを
desire
す
to
るほど趣
bully
味
you
は悪くねえ
outside the
からな
game board as well. Beato hung her head. I was still facing away from her. However, we waited wordlessly for a while, my hand still on hers. By now, no one would believe that this woman with sad eyes was the same person as that prideful Beato. So I asked one more. Even though I said it aloud, it wasn't a question to her. I was asking myself,
お前は
just what in the world were you thinking?
そうさ
That's
俺は
right.
ラムダデルタのゲー
Even
ム
though
を通じてでも
this is Lambda Delta's
お前
game,
を探
I
さなく
have
ちゃ
to
ならない
find you
お
here.
前が何を考
I
え
have to find what you
何を
fought
しようとしていたの
and
か
what you were trying to do. Very soon, this game will also reach October 4th, 1986. The 5th game will finally begin, and this time I'll reach the end of that journey, the end of the
殺
Golden
人
Witch.
がとかトリックがとか
I'm not worried about the
So you
obvious
love it,
stuff
Akira.
like murders and tricks. What did you, the
黄金の魔女
Golden Witch
Beatrice,
Beatrice, think,
何
and
を考
why
え
did you
何
do
のため
what
に
you
そう
did?
したのか何を望んでいたのか
What were you hoping
それ
for?
を
That's what I'm gonna find out. That's right. I already know the method for reaching the end of that journey. I've been shouting it since the very beginning.
今こそチェス盤をひっくり返そう
I will flip over the
この
chessboard.
物語
I'll
俺側からじゃ
untangle
なく
this tale not from my
お
side,
前側からの目
but
線
from
で
yours.
そして今度こ
And
そ
this time, I'll
お前を
understand.
理解しようそしてお前の
I'll
心
pick
臓に
my
たどり
way
着く
through your heart. I'll pick my way to
痛み
your
なん
heart
か感じさせない
and won't let you feel any pain.
安心しろ
Don't
あの
worry.
魔女どものおも
I
ちゃ
won't let those witches make you their toy anymore. Beato looked at me again and gave a small nod. That's right. The position of the game master might have been snatched up by Lambda Delta. However, as long as I continue this contest with the intent of fighting against Beato, our fight will continue no matter who controls the game board. Very soon, the curtain will rise on our game. During this year, during this year conference, più basso ancora, Genji è super basso. No, cazzo. During this year family conference, we must conceal the master's secret once more.
はい
Yes,
心得ております
I understand.
同じ手がもう一度
I'm a
通じる
little
か疑問
doubtful
だ
that the same trick will work twice.
奥様も同じご懸念を
Madame
持たれている
shares your concerns.
そのため
Because of
今年は
that,
書
it
斎
was
から一切
decided that this
お出に
year
ならない
he
方向
will
で
not
ことにな
leave the study, not even once.
つまり
In
ずっと
other
書斎に
words,
こも
we'll
られている
have
こと
to make it
ですね
seem like he shut
という
away
わ
in
け
the
です
study the whole time. Yes,
そして書斎
and
に
the
入
only
ることが
ones
許
allowed
され
to
ている
enter the
我
study
ら三
will
人
be the three of us. The three servants permitted to wear the one-winged eagle,
ということは
which means that
僕たち
the
3人
three
で
of us will have
親
to
方様の嘘を
perpetuate
突き
that
通さなく
lie
ちゃならない
about
わ
the
けか。
master.
そうだ
Correct.
親族の方
The
々は
relatives will probably
親方
question
様の
you
具合
about
や
the
機嫌
master's
な
self
ど問い
and
詰めて
mood.
くるだろうよどみなく
Make sure you answer without
不審に思われ
hesitation
ることが
and to
なく
see that you there is nothing and to see that nothing is seen as suspicious.
はい
Yes,
心得ました
I understand.
姉さんはすぐ
I'm
できる
sure
から
you'll
な。
screw up right away,
むしろ
Nathan. Maybe it's
当日は
better
風
to
かなんか
say you
理由
have a
をつけて
cold or something
欠
so
席した
that you
方がい
can
いんじゃない？
skip that day.
そんな
That's
ひどい
mean. Canon wasn't just saying that to make fun of Shannon. He simply wanted to release her from the stress they would have faced that day as they took on this critical task of concealing Skinzo's death.
源氏様、シャノ
Kenji-sama,
ンがシフトに
it
入る
is
必
really
要はないの
necessary
だ。
for Shannon to work that
僕
day.
たちだけで十分
We
やり
can
ます。
we can manage things well enough without
そ
her.
れはできる
That I cannot
奥
do.
様から
Madame gave
我ら
strict
三人
orders that
は
the
必
three
ず
of
シフト
us
に
would
入
be
るようこの
scheduled
厳命
to
だ
work on that day.
はいやり遂げる覚悟です
I am prepared to perform my duties successfully.
どじらないでよ。
Don't screw things up.
どじりません
I won't. Shannon grew sullen and Canon shrugged. Then Genji told them that they weren't taking this seriously enough.
シャノン
Shannon, Canon,
すでにお
the
使いす
master
る
we
親方
serve
様はお
has
亡くなり
already
になる
passed away.
しかし
However,
本当の
until
意味でお
he
亡く
has
なりになる
truly
まで
passed on,
我らの
we will
奉仕は
continue
続
to
く
serve.
あの書斎は無
That
人で
study
はない
is not empty.
今なお
The master is still there, hard at work on his
日々の
usual
研究に勤
research.
しまれているのだそれを
Make sure you take that to heart.
はい源氏様
お父様がすでに亡くなっている
Father has already passed away?
そんなバカな
That's insane!
まあま
Settle down.
あ例えの話
It's only a possibility.
武田信玄は
It's well
その
known
死を
that the
3年
Takeda
の
Shingen
間
said
秘
it
密にする
in
よう
his
遺言
will
した
that
っていう
his death was to be
有名な
kept a
故事がある
secret
よ
for 3 years.
知らんか
Know about that?
そんな話もあったかし
That's
ら
how it
日
went.
本史はよくわかんな
My
い
Japanese history isn't so
当
great.
時武
At
田
that
は
time, Takeda was in the middle of war with Oda and Tokugawa.
そこで信玄が
If his
死んだなんて
death
話になっ
had
たら
become known at a
戦況
time
に
like that,
悪影
it
響が
would
出る
probably have had a negative effect on the
そ
war.
やから自分の
Because
死
of
を
this, he left a
3
will
年隠すよう
saying
に
that
遺
his
言
death
したん
should
や
be kept hidden for 3
秀
years.
吉かてそうやで
Hideyoshi did the same thing, right? He completely suppressed information about the death of his master, Oda Nobunaga, so that the enemy wouldn't find out.
素早く毛利と和解して
Quickly made peace with Mori and defeated Akechi in the Battle of Yamazaki.
一方の
Shibata Katsuie,
はそこで失
on the
敗
other
したんや
hand, that was where he
敵の
failed.
上杉に
The
信
enemy,
長の死を
Uesugi,
知られ
learned of Nobuyuki's
大
death,
い反撃を受け
so
て
Shibata had to
足止め
deal
を
with
食ら
an
い
unexpected counterattack and was slowed down.
その後の秀吉と
That's
の
why
後継
later
者
on
争
he
いで
suffered a great loss
大
against
これを取ることに
Hideyoshi
なった
in the fight for the succession. Hideyoshi, who had a strong fascination with the commanders of the Sengoku period, would always show off his knowledge whenever he got the chance. Winching slightly ever made him get back to his
早い
point.
話が
Long story short, the whole time since last year's family conference, something has not been feeling right to me about what happened.
あれは
You mean the time when Rudolph and I were talking about the inheritance and father overheard us from the hall?
そこや
That's just it.
ナツさんや使用人たちは
Natsui-san and the servant kept saying father was here or there and that he seemed to be in a bad
わ
mood.
しら親族は
But not a single one of us relatives saw father, right?
もしあなたの想像が
What
本
you're,
当なら
if what you're thinking is right,
どういうこと
wait, what does that
兄
mean?
さんが遺産の独
Does
り
it
占めを
mean
狙
that
っているという
Nissan
こ
is
と
trying to get all of the inheritance for himself?
もちろん死ん
Of
だことを
course, hiding someone's death is a very dangerous thing to
果た
do.
して遺産
In
を
all
独り
things
占めするためだ
considered,
けに
I'm not
それ
sure
だけのことを
Krauss would be willing to
フランス
do
が
it
やって
just
の
to
ける
have
の
the
か
inheritance
わ
to
しも
himself.
確信は持てんだが可
But
能性は
it is possible. Well,
確かに
It's true that Nissan had always been greedy. He always used to take things that were meant for all the siblings and keep them, that were meant for all the siblings and kept them for himself. Kraus-san's meant to be the most affluent of you siblings. For Kraus-san to scheme to keep the inheritance all to himself to the point of accepting the risk of hiding father's death. I don't know, it sounds a little unbelievable to me. But last year's family conference was just so strange. It makes me wonder. Eva and the others were painfully aware of how reckless it would be to try to see Kinzo without Kinzo knowing that he was in a bad mood. So ever since hearing about Kinzo getting into a terrible mood during last year's family conference, they had never actively tried to contact him. That was why, until this very day, it hadn't occurred to them to find it suspicious that Kinzo never showed himself. It definitely is something we should suspect. But I wonder if Nissan really would do something as appalling as hiding father's death. For all of his pride, that man had a coward's side to him. Would he really make such a once-in-a-lifetime bet? In any event, it'd probably be a good idea to make sure we get a chance to meet with father during this year's conference. They are extremely bad rumors. It seems that Aniki's business are failing even worse than we had managed. It seems that Aniki's businesses are failing even worse than we'd imagined. It looked like he had a massive loss. It looks like he had massive losses and is giving it everything he's got just to try and cover up that fact. In other words, in that case, it would be very difficult to borrow money from Kraus-san. Yeah, I could almost cry. So, would being in financial distress give Kraus-san some kind of weakness? A weakness? Well, investors tend to have a keen eye. If they were to hear that Aniki is actually low on funds, no one would give him the time of day. I guess trust is the most important part of that business. Kyrie smiled thinly. Rudolph was taken aback by that smile. He had figured that this plan, which involved raising money to get him out of the current mess by borrowing from the affluent Kraus, would all come to nothing now that he knew that Kraus himself was in financial trouble. Kraus-san's credibility might be something he needs for his future work. But we won't have any use for it. You are suggesting extorting money from Aniki? If I was in your place, I hate the idea. Who would want to undermine their own blood sibling like that? Rudolph felt a shiver go up his spine at Kyrie's cold smile. At times, Kyrie was able to throw away all compassion and think in extremely ruthless manner. Whenever he felt that, Rudolph thought about how he never wanted to have her as his enemy. I wouldn't want to threaten Onisan if there were any other way to get the money. If there were any other way, we wouldn't be worrying. Don't you think worrying about the problem when you have no other option is a waste of time? Rudolph stopped talking, folded his arms and lowered his gaze. Even now, Rudolph had a kind of fear of Kraus due to his violence when they were young. And now Rudolph would be the one to threaten him. That meant Rudolph would also have to fight against his childhood trauma. So to give her husband a little push, Kyrie smiled reassuringly, and perhaps coldly. I never want to do business based on trust. It takes hard work to build up trust, but only an instant to lose it. There's no less profitable investment.
そうだな
You're right. All the trust in the world isn't worth a crisp on a new banknote. Even though Kraus-san has been taking huge losses, he should be able to prepare enough money to buy us some time. Of course, this will involve forcing him to exchange all the trust he's built up for cash.
こいつは
This is gonna get rough.
十分な備えが必
We
要
have to prepare sufficiently.
私たちには時
We
間も
haven't
失敗
been
も許
given
されない
any time or room for
そうだ
failure. Isn't that right?
私の京都の友人たち
Among
に
my Kyoto
そういう
friends,
のを
there
洗
are
う
a
の
few
上手
people who are very good at investigating that sort
あ
of
まり
thing.
世話になりたく
I'd
ない
rather not be in debt with those people. But you do want. I'd rather not be in debt of those people. These becoming cast. But do you want to try meeting
領
them?
収書は切れな
They
いけど
don't give receipts, but
と投
I'm
資に
sure
見合う
they'll
だけ
dig
の
up
ものを調
something
べ
that makes them worth the investment. La mafia, comunque. Oh, telefono. Pronto, pronto?
ええ
Sto per dire il telefono di Rosa questo. Yes.
マリアも元気よ
Maria is doing well
そち
too.
らは大きなお世話よ
That's none of your
ありがとう
concern. Thank you.
え
Huh?
さあスケジュールを見てみないとわから
I
ない
don't
けど
know. I'll have to look at my schedule. Rosa was talking to Rudolph over the phone. Rosa rarely receives calls from her older siblings, so she braced herself for something serious. Well, truth is, want to have a little talk about the next family conference without Aniki.
エヴァ姉さんとルドルフ兄さん
Between
と私の
Yumi
3
and
人
Evanesan?
普
Sounds
通の
like
触
an
れそうな
headache.
話ね
I can talk about the detail. I can't talk about the details over the phone, but you might find that it's worth listening to.
それはいい話
Something good? Of course. Aniki is all for it.
姉さんが
Nesan is. We just want your approval. We aren't going to ask you for money or anything like that. The most important thing is that the three of us are united. Understand what I'm saying? Rosa let out a sigh, and did so because in the past, when Rudolph and Eva got into a fight with Kraus, they've often used a tone like this to drag her into it.
先に教えて
First, tell
そ
me,
の話は
I stand
私
to
も
gain
得をする
something
話よ
from this too, right? Yeah. The three of us will each grab 200 million out of this. If things go well, we might be able to squeeze out more. That should be enough to wipe out your debt, right?
それはいつまで
When
始められる
will we be grabbing this by? Within the fiscal year, of course. I need it. Aniki needs it too. And you need it too, Rosa. All three of us, all three of our problems will all three of our problems will
姉
settle.
さんが話に乗るくらいには勝算があ
So
るのね
its chances of success are good enough that Nasans agreed to it. Now do you wanna hear? I know you're a bit. I know it's a bit. I know it's a bit. I know it's a bit sudden, but let's meet this Sunday, 7 p.m. at the cafe shop you like in Ginza. That's the one time. That's the only time Anakin's schedule and mine match. Any
2
problems?
億捻出できる話なら聞かないわけにはいか
If
な
he
いわ
can bring me 200 million, I have no choice but to
では
listen.
次の日
Then
曜
let's
日
meet
午
at
後
7
7時
p.m. at
Leopold.
this Sunday at Leopold's. Say hi to Maria-chan for me. You can bring her too if you
あ
want.
の子の前でお金の
Don't
話は
talk
やめて
about money in front of that child. She set the receiver down with a clunk, a little violently. Apparently either Eva or Rudolph had gotten a hold of one of Kraus' weak points. They were probably thinking of threatening him with that at the next family conference and forcing him to pay money. Even before hearing the details, she knew full well that it could be nothing good. But even so, this was a once-in-a-lifetime chance to pay back her large debts. Rosa too had a notebook Rosa took a notebook out of her handbag and went to fill in the day she would be meeting with Rudolph and Eva. Then she frowned and smacked herself hard in the forehead, because written there was DZL with Maria. Maria was in her room playing around excitedly with Saktaro and the others. It was because her mother was going to take her to the amusement park that had just been built, Dansleyland, on Sunday. Looking at the clock, Rosa saw that it was just past 9 o'clock at night. Maria was breaking the lights out rule. After covering her face and agonizing for a while, Rosa stood up and stomped over to Maria's room. The room was almost certainly a mess as well. Okay. At least tonight that was convenient. As she stood outside the door to Maria's room, listening to the happy laughter and seeping through, Rosa's face twisted in anguish once again, and she looked at the floor. Then, when she raised her head again, her brow was furrowed and her face had become an ugly expression of anger. Penso di aver capito, adesso lo voglio usare come scusa, cioè siccome lei era sveglia oltre la sua past bedtime, vuole usare come scusa l'arrabbiarsi con lei forzatamente, quindi lei si sente una merda perché ha fatto sta cazzata di essersi dimenticata del fatto che doveva andare a Disneyland con Maria proprio quella domenica lì, e adesso deve trovare qualsiasi scusa possibile per cancellare l'uscita, e siccome fatalità Maria era sveglia oltre le 9 che doveva dormire, si è dovuta arrabbiare per poi tipo dirle non andiamo più perché sei sveglia oltre le 9, ecco. Quindi di nuovo si ritorna a Rosa come personaggio complesso che non riesco ora mi innaffio. Non riesco ad odiarla completamente, cioè a me mi fa male Rosa come personaggio, il modo in cui si comporta con Maria mi fa molto male, ma non riesco ad odiarla perché è tanto vittima di se stessa quanto Maria è vittima sua. Detto questo, è completamente nel torto. Semplicemente non riesco ad odiarla. Cioè, la vorrei odiare, ma non riesco. The weather wasn't looking very good. The weekend forecast had said that there was a high likelihood of a tropical cyclone growing into a large typhoon. If it was true that the premonitions tended to be right, then this year's family conference would probably take place in an absolutely horrible weather. In fact, Natsui wished that the typhoon was large enough to stop the boat travel to the island. In fact, Natsui wished that a typhoon large enough to stop boat travel to the island would seal Rokkenjima away forever. If that happened, she would be able to keep Kinza's death hidden as long as she wanted. If only the typhoon would keep them at bay forever. Natsui let out a deep sigh. Just doing that made her headache throb. As the day of the family conference approached, the intensity of her headache just kept on increasing. At that time, the phone rang. Natsui turned the television off and picked up the receiver.
Hi.
Hello? Oh. I apologize for calling you during your rest. It is Genji.
何事ですか?
Is something the matter? There is a phone call for you from the external line. However, they will not state their name.
名乗らない?
They aren't saying their name? Yes. The person in question said that you would know when you spoke with them. What would you like me to do?
いたずらかもしれ
It
ません
might be a prank.
どんな相手です
What did they sound like?
おそらく
I believe it was a young man.
お心当たりは
Do
ご
you
ざい
have
ません
any idea as to who it might be?
若い
A
Dance?
young man? Natsui didn't have a clue who that might be. In the first place, there was no one amongst her acquaintances who would do something as rude as refusing to state their name. And on top of that, a young man? Natsui thought that, as a wife, it wasn't right for her to have connections with men other than her husband, much less a young man. It might be considered suspicious. The phone call suddenly seemed like something dirty, but at the same time she was more interested than ever in what this person wanted to tell her. Could it be that there was some kind of trouble related to Kraft's businesses? But if that was some particular reason, what if there was some particular reason that they needed to talk to Kraft's wife instead of Kraft directly? No matter what the message, it was her duty as a wife to hear it and relay it to Kraus. If it was some strange kind of extortion attempt, she would just have to firmly refuse and inform Kraus that she had received a phone call like that. If the call was something irritating, then she just had to tell Genji to never again send her a call if the caller refused to state their name. Thinking this, Natsui told Genji, who was offering to hang up after all, to connect her to this person, and she set the receiver down. After a short while, the phone rang again.
もしもし
Hello? This wasn't the internal line. It was the external phone line which Genji had transferred to her. So he should already have been connected directly with the mysterious man. However, the person on the other end didn't respond to her. Not liking this at all, Natsui spoke one more time, sounding
も
displeased.
しもし
Hello?
誰ですか
Who is this?
名を名乗りなさい
Tell me your name. She had something that sounded like a sigh. She automatically gulped. After remaining silent for a little longer, the man finally answered. It's been a long time. That was the first time the man had spoken. Just how long has it been? Just how many years, I wonder.
何の話です
What are you talking
あ
about?
なたは誰ですか
Who are you? The voice certainly did sound like that of a young man, but it was a bit hard to figure out much about a person just by the voice over the phone. He sounded like a young adult, but he might actually have been a middle school age, or an adult whose voice still hadn't deepened. In fact, he might have been premature to assume this person was male at all. However, one thing was certain. Though this person spoke to Natsui in such a familiar and casual manner, Natsui had absolutely no clue who it was. It'd be easy for me to tell you my name, but it would make me very sad.
何を言ってい
I
るのか
don't
分か
know
りか
what
ね
you're
ます
talking
あ
about.
なたは誰です
Who
か
are
そ
you?
して私に
And what
何の用
business do you have with me?
それが言えないなら
If you
興味
can't
はありま
tell
せ
me
ん
that, I'm not
切
interested.
りますよ
I'm hanging up. What I want is for you to remember.
何を思い出せというのです
And what is that you're telling me to
あ
remember?
なたなど知りませ
I
ん
don't know you,
思い
so
出す
I
よう
have
な心
nothing
当
to
たりもありま
remember.
せん
Don't say that. I'm your child, aren't I?
何ですって
What did you say?
あなたは
What are you talking
何を言
about?
っているんです
Don't say things that'll make me so sad. Mom? My mother? That unsettling word thrust itself mercilessly into the depths of Natsui's heart and started churning it about. In Natsui's entire life, no one had ever said anything so unsettling to her. In her bewilderment, Natsui felt as her heart beat so loudly that he felt like he would explode. I have no idea why you think you have the right to call me mother. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm hanging up. I came back for revenge. Revenge for your crime of 19 years ago. Natsui's mind went blank, and beyond the sound of the wind howling outside the window, she most certainly heard the roar of the sea from that day. You remember actually, don't you? I told you I don't know what you're talking about. Never call here again. I haven't forgotten what you did to me 19 years ago. So I will call you mother despite what you did. No, because of what you did. To curse you. It'll be the family conference very soon, won't it? I am your son, mother, after all. I'll come on the day of the conference, after 19 years, so that I can have my revenge on you. Breathing so hard her shoulder heaved, Natsui slammed the receiver down and hung up. Then she hit the phone violently, knocking the receiver off, so that there was no chance for the man calling back. You can hear the roar of the sea. The voice I'm hearing from beyond the howling must be... No matter how I cover my ears, the headache won't... Completely pale, Natsui kept shivering as though cold. Lambda, are you there? Yes, I'm here. I'm anywhere you want me to be, Ben. Then crawl into the cupboard under the kitchen floor, or in a jar of rice bran paste if you want. Oh, you're gonna dip me in bean paste and bite me? But in that case, I prefer to be dipped in honey. In return, I'll cook you in sugar water. At least make it sweet soy sauce with sweet sake. So what's up? You want to play a repetition request? That's right. It's Natsui's phone conversation here, a fact. Lambda Delta grinned pleasantly as though sizing Berncastle up. She was probably trying to break Berncastle by taking her time on the repetition request. Declining to repeat? I don't know, let me see. Should I decline or should I respond? As the game master, it's up to me to decide, and I get to make the decision anytime I want. Unless I state it in the blue text, you aren't obligated to respond. Exactly. For now, the best you can do is be all like Natsui as a secret from 19 years ago? What could it be? Make sure you're sitting on the edge of your seat, alright? Of course, this fishy telephone call occurs before October 4th, 1986. This is still before the start of the game. So, it is not necessary to question whether it's true or false, whether it's true or false in the first place. Since you, the Game Master, went out of your way to show me this, I'm just trying to assume you're setting up something for later. It might be a trick, but I'll at least keep this move of yours in my memory. I placed this card face down onto the field. What? Direct attack. After suddenly being conked on the head, Lambda Delta was bewildered. But perhaps the comprehensible exchange was funny to her because she quickly went back to giggling. Are you done preparing the game board now? Yeah, that's right. Now I'll finally move on to the game. On October 4th, 1986. I wonder what number October 4, 1986 this is for the endless witch, Beatrice. She really is a frightening child. Taking any action on your side, Baron? No. If you aren't going to respond to my repetition requests, I'm done. Turn and then start. Clean up. Drop. Come. October 4th, 1986. Pam, parabara, pam, 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 pam. Che dire? The First Day. Che titolo particolare per questo per questo volume.
やっぱりこのバラテーンは